Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to our live chat. It's crazy that we're even doing these kind of things. So we're 4 minutes early right now, so people still haven't started rolling in. I got one thumbs up. All right. Is that you, Laurel?
Yeah.
Oh, two people have entered. Now they've heard you giggle. Hey, Norma. Hope you're doing well. Spring is almost here in Tennessee. It's like, yeah, right there. And you can kind of feel it in the air, but the rain and the mud reminds us that it's not quite here yet. So what's up, Bama B boys? Lots of stuff, lots and lots of stuff. Fixing to do a seminar, be a keynote speaker this weekend. So kind of a little nervous about that, but it's going to be fun, I think, as long as I don't do anything stupid again. So one of the things that we're doing right now, one of the things I wanted to address in this video is spring nutrition. And it's really more about late winter nutrition. And so primarily when it comes to that is like right now, we've had a couple, just like 2 good days of pollen. Bees have been able to go out and they're just bringing it in by the bee pollen loads, I guess. But then we're having like 5, 6, 7 days in a row where they can't get out. It's either too cold or more often than not, we have those warm days. But when we get warm days this time of the year, it's rain. And so that's why we feed those pollen patties. It really comes in handy. Also, I had a video recently that was talking about having enough energy in the form of honey or sugar syrup. And I can't get my bees to take sugar syrup right now. I think if I had inverted jars right over the cluster or something like that, it would totally work. But I'm set up with frame feeders, and unless the colony is really packed and large, like some of the big colonies that we have that are, just from wall to wall bees, they don't have enough heat to keep that syrup warm enough there on the edge of the hive to be able to access it. And so something else has to be used. And there's products out there for that, but ideally you feed them in the fall good. Most of ours are good, but there's a few that need some feed, and without that energy, they are going to go backwards or just kind of stay where they are, and the rest of them are going to leave them in the dust. So, hey, Cards. Thanks for coming on and being a part of our chat today. You're in Australia, right? I'm pretty sure you are. All right, so let's get to some questions. If you have any questions about spring buildup and all that kind of stuff, the main thing is, just the bees having access to everything they need to go forward. We're still, let's see, all of March, most of April away from producing honey. So we have a long ways to go before then, and the bees are going to need to have their nutrition. So hey, Cars is in California. I'm getting you confused with, I think, Sentimental Bloke, but now I'll remember. So let's see. Manitoba. So you're up there close to Ian. So I'm sure you have the long underwear on today and yesterday and probably every day for a while. Thanks for the kind words, Brian. So looks like Cayman lowered his ears. That is exactly what I did. And I said that just the other day, and Laurel's like, that is such a weird way to put it. What can I say? I'm a weird guy. As far as like, someone mentioned building wax and all of that kind of stuff. I've seen bees already building a little bit of wax. They're my strongest colonies. They have surplus honey in the boxes. They have everything they need to be successful. I'm talking 4 frames of brood right now, but they're strong. They're really strong colonies. I'm going to try to do a video on those colonies really soon, so you can see what our honey production colonies are looking like. And really, they're past honey production size. We're going to have to cut them back, or they will be in the trees. Hey, Jeremy, thanks so much for helping us out. And, we're going to be trying out some really cool stuff. One thing I've mentioned in the past, we are going to be at some point, I don't know if it'll be next year. I'm hoping it is. We are going to be setting up a test yard, and that is the plan to try to get that going next year. And we're going to have, I'm pretty sure what we're going to do is 20 insulated hives, 20 non-insulated hives. Then we're going to have some different genetics, try different products, and we'll have you guys weigh in. There's ways that we can put polls out there. We can kind of decide all together what, as a collective, we think would be more important. And that's kind of where a lot of this money, we're kind of socking it away so we can do more experiments because these are a lot of questions that I've been asking myself for years. Speaking of those questions, a lot of you have been asking about the wax dipping setup and all the little nuances with that. And I sat down today and put together a video about our wax dipping tank, measurements, details. Hopefully that'll help any of you guys who are interested in that. And you'll be able to hopefully be able to set one up yourself if that's what you're wanting. I really think it's a great idea, especially for bee clubs. You can get a couple really good bee buddies together and work together. That would be awesome. So Homer Sturgill asked, when do you start grafting queens? And that's usually the 3rd week of March is when we start grafting. Let's see. Illinois thinking about putting swarm traps out 2nd week of March. That too soon? No, it's not too soon. You probably won't see any that early, but it could happen. See, what could be happening is you could have commercial beekeepers coming back from the almonds. And if they're parking really strong hives, I mean, a lot of those hives that come out of the almonds, not all of them, but a lot of them are really strong and they'll swarm. And you can have them out too early, but it's not going to hurt anything. You just might want to come back 2 or 3 weeks later and maybe put a little bit more lemongrass or swarm commander in there or something like that. Where can you get the double bubble? Tony Bosco asked. So that is actually called Reflect X with an IX on the end. So Reflect with an IX, I believe. And I get that at Lowe's. A lot of places carry that stuff. Let's see. When do you feel that your flow is on? When can I stop feeding? My climate is similar to yours. So honestly, I try to feed everything in the fall. That's really the ideal way to do it. But we don't start putting honey supers on until about mid-April on our honey production colonies. And the thing, if it is the ones that we're feeding later in the year, like as far as in winter and coming into spring, those aren't our honey production colonies typically. Our honey production colonies are the ones that are in really good shape, our best of the best. And we don't need all of our colonies to be honey production. I'm probably only going to have maybe a 1/3 of our colonies producing honey production this year. Most of them are going to go for nuke production. Hey, B Lord, you're a crazy person coming on here early in the morning. And I'm telling you what, we really appreciate our Polish buddy over there in the cold regions of Poland. So hopefully you guys will thaw out before too long. Caveman. I've been called that my whole life. That's all right. This caveman's cleaning up a little bit. Got a shindig to go to this weekend. All right. So other than feeding pollen substitute, what is the best way to boost our hives going into March here in Southern West Virginia? So what is the best way to boost our hives? So really, if they've got a good queen and they don't have any mite pressures or anything like nosema or anything that's really bothering them, and typically I find that those aren't an issue for me, but then my bees, I feel like because I can control the genetics, I can get a little more consistency. The main thing is getting those mites dead, a decent cluster size, and access to all the food that they need. And the pollen sub really goes a long way because it just smooths things out. But I haven't yet found a supplement that I thought was worth the money. But then again, I'm very skeptical, and there's several I haven't tried. That's why I really want to set up this experimental yard, is we can go out there and we can purchase something from Dadant or Man Lake, or some of these individual companies that are out there, like the probiotics from Strong's DFM, and try those out. And we can do 2/3 with or 3/4 with, and it'd probably be better to have 75% with, 25% without, and do everything else the same, and just see the difference, or if there is any difference. And honestly, just a good pollen patty and plenty of energy. It does very, very well on a good colony. Bonnie asked, do I use DFM microbial? I don't use anything except sugar syrup when I have to, and pollen sub. I do treat the bees with treatments, but as far as other supplements, no. So B-Lord's asking, can you tell, B-Lord, can you tell me what can happen if I start feeding pollen patties too early? So feeding pollen patties too early more than likely will be a waste. And it really depends on a few different things. This is where I have to be careful, because I've never fed in an area anywhere remotely cold like pollen, and like Ian Stepler. Next time I talk to Ian, I'm going to ask him that question. B Lord, I'm not 100% sure, but the main thing, my understanding is with cold weather, is that you don't want their guts getting backed up with mineral content. And even though the minerals and the roughage and stuff that's in the pollen patties are beneficial, there's always waste. There's always stuff that's not used. It's just way is with any food, even natural pollen. And if they're not able to go and poop for 3 or 4 months, that could be an issue. But as far as day length, the days are getting longer. So as far as day length go, it's a great time to start pollen patties because of that. But does anyone here in really northern areas have any experience with feeding pollen patties where your bees aren't going to get a cleansing flight for 2 or 3 months at this point? So I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, so someone's commenting about the polyhive back here. But oh, and Giles is talking about he's in central Maine. He's starting to get some cleansing flights, and he's feeding pollen sub. So yeah, I don't know what Maine is like compared to Poland. There's how the ocean affects the thermodynamics and the weather and all that stuff. Oh, so, okay. So B Lord says they've been flying. So as long as they can get out and let her fly, I would start throwing some pollen patties on there myself. So I mean that's just my only concern. But as far as day length goes, I really feel like the solstice has a lot to do with it. Once that day length starts getting a little bit longer, the bees start wanting to brood a little bit more. And I usually wait till the end of January to start doing that. It's funny though, we think about winter and feeding, but a lot of times we don't think about fall and feeding, which is something I'm going to be addressing more this year because it's hard for us to get our bees to brood. I find it easier to get the bees to brood in February than I find it to get them to brood in late October and November. So Mike asked, Greens from PA, do you do any speaking engagements out of state? Would you come talk to a local club? I can, and I do that. Actually, I did one last week. It was a private one. They want me to advertise it. And I'm going to be in Maysville, Kentucky as a keynote speaker doing 3 classes this week. And I'm going to try to get some videos of that and post them so you all can watch them as well. Now, we don't do a whole lot of classes or anything like that during the busy season. Pretty much my season is mostly, like September to March or something like that. It really just depends. And, I've already got several things booked for this coming year. So, and stuff for next year as well. The YouTube channel has really done some crazy things. Yeah, Maximilian says the solstices have more effect than we realize, and it truly does. The more that I kind of pay attention to that and gardening and other things, the more I realize just how much that it really makes a difference. I just wonder all the stuff that we don't know. And hey, Thomas, thanks for coming on today and helping support these live chats and stuff and everything. Thanks for watching our videos. You've been around for quite a while, I think. That's what if I remember. So someone asked about this polystyrene hive back here. We're going to be trying a few of these out. I've got a couple unassembled. I'm going to be doing a short video on just kind of how to assemble them. It's not that hard. I think there are some interesting questions. I know a lot of people don't like plastic, and that's one thing I want to say is people get really onto me over plastic and polystyrene. And if you've looked around at my videos, you notice I like wood. I was a carpenter before I was a beekeeper. I really enjoy building stuff out of wood, whether it's beekeeping or not. However, I also like learning new things. And I also want what's best for my beekeeping operation as far as my bees being healthier and also what's going to support my family. Jumping into this as a full-time business is one of the most risky things I've ever done in my life. And I'd be lying to say that it didn't stress me out from time to time and make me a little apprehensive. It's exciting as well. But these things have several times more R value than wood. And in the summertime, if the bees are fanning the hive less because they are not having to cool it down as much and splash water and fan that's less honey they're burning up. In wintertime, they're not having to, work as hard to keep the brood at 90 odd degrees in February. So there are a lot of questions that we need to ask. And there are a lot of people that say, hey, man, these things are the best. You're an idiot for not using them. I get that kind of stuff. And I get people that tell me that I'm an idiot for using them. And my wife just says I'm an idiot, and she doesn't explain why. So um, I just need to accept the fact. Hi, Laurel. You weren't supposed to hear that. Anyways, I think we need to figure out more about insulated beehives and if they have significant benefits for our bees. Some people say that it can really help them save a lot of bee bread and honey throughout the year. So I want to find that out. So this fella's asking, have you used marine grade plywood for bottoms or boxes? So I have not used marine grade. I've just used CDX plywood, and then I've dipped it. And that seems to, so far, work very well, and the price is very inexpensive. Yeah, B Lord saying 90% of people in Europe using poly hives. The things seem to be working okay. Yeah, I mean, and see, there's a lot of the folks I talk to that are in the UK, Canada, who have a lot more experience. Of course, it's in a colder region, so I think they're more prone to try those things out. And plus, we as Americans, we are a very rebellious people. I think that has something to do with it. But I mean, seriously though, I don't like the thoughts of using a ton of plastic, and I don't like the thoughts of using a bunch of polystyrene when I can use wood. But then again, if we're not having to feed our bees near as much, and we're not having to, the bees aren't burning through as much honey, and they're healthier. I mean, where do we draw the line and all that kind of stuff? And I think everyone as an individual has to make that decision. I mean, if you look at some of my hives that are triple deeps, they're massive, no insulation. The boxes aren't even, airtight. I'm popping the lids, throwing patties on. They have lots of honey, went into winter with a healthy big cluster, good queen, plenty of nutrition, all that stuff. So I just want to learn is the main thing. And people that have to get really ticked off because I'm trying new things out, well, get over it. Let's see. How do you remove bees from honey supers when robbing? So there's several different ways to do it, and you can use fume boards. You can use bee blowers. I think fume boards for the small beekeeper is great. You can also just pull individual frames, have a nuke box there, a bee brush, and take them off. Hey, Frederick Dunn. We got Frederick Dunn on today, fellas. And if you don't know who he is a YouTuber that does a lot of bee videos and other agriculture type videos. So if you haven't, you ought to check him out. He says he can't stick around, um, but and he did leave me a someone told me he gave me a call out on the Apame stuff, and I really do appreciate that, Mr. Dunn. So if you get a chance, I know several of our subscribers love his channel, so you might want to check that out. You can never learn too much. Let's see. I got a huge block of wax from an apiary in Florida. It's unfiltered. Do I need to filter it to coat my plastic foundation? Unless it's just like really black or something, I would totally use it. It'll be fine. And we don't filter ours heavily before we wax our plastic foundation. I actually think it might be better that way. It has more of the hive smell to it. So Tom says he's trying 2R10 hives this year. Whew, that is really insulated. Keep in mind that a normal bit of wood is an R value of 1. And again, Frederick, thanks so much for supporting our channel. That is super generous of you. And he's a fellow YouTuber, and he's been doing this significantly longer, and he's got some really interesting videos, and he does several live chats as well. So don't forget about that, fellas. So Urban Wildman, I think maybe you weren't on a second ago, but I literally just filmed the video for what you're asking for. It's like 10 minutes long. It covers like all the specs of the wax dipping tank, where I purchased it from, painting and wax dipping, all of those different things. I'm pretty sure I covered everything that you're going to need. I'm going to be either releasing that tomorrow morning. Let's see, Friday. I might release it Saturday morning, but very well could be tomorrow morning. But yeah, I'll have all the information on that for you. And I really do appreciate it, Urban Wildman. I could tell you a little bit about it on this chat, but honestly, the video will do it much, much better. Yeah, sorry it took so long to get to that, guys. We just I'm really bad about overdoing things, and like we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that and we're gonna do this, and then I'm like, I said I'd do that 8 months ago. Whoops. Hey David, thanks so much for coming on and everything. helping us figure some new beekeeping stuff out. And one of the things that I'm going to be addressing in my keynote speech this Saturday is just the fact that we have got to work together. I think that's one of the issues that we're facing with right now. Oh, this one's a flow hive beekeeper, treatment free beekeeper. This one, polystyrene, and you do wood or 8 frames or mediums or long hives, horizontals or whatever. We're all going to do things differently. And instead of arguing on that, we need to focus on our similarities. I have truly learned more from the people that I don't have things similar with, and in common than those that do the same thing that I do all the time. Because I mean, you just learn more from people that do things differently. And I definitely am very thankful for several people who do things differently and who've been like, "Hey, Cayman, you really need to try this out." I used to be a totally against the queen excluders. I love those things now, but I didn't give them a fair shot. And when I first tried them out, I didn't use them the right way. Let's see. So Don Bearden, can I make an even split and leave them side by side and lock them 3 days all in and stay in the box and all stay in the box I put them in? Never seen this queen, but she's wonderful. So what I would do, Don, if I was really wanting to, even that out, it needs to be cool. If you're going to close them up, you're going to want to have good ventilation. You can use a queen excluder, but just make sure you don't separate any brood away from, a lot of nurse bees and just separate the bees out. You're warmer than we are, but honestly, you could just split them next to each other. The hive that you're splitting bees into that's not in the original location, always shake a little bit of extra bees. You're going to lose some, even if you close them up for 3 days. You're still going to lose a little bit of drift. It's not going to be as much, but I do think you will lose a little bit, and that's just part of it. Bees have a little bit of a memory, and even if you had 2 different colonies, there's still some drift that happens from colony to colony. It does happen, but you could just make the split and then stick a queen, whichever one doesn't have eggs in it shortly. But just watch out for queen cells. I don't know exactly how you're making that split. All right. What do you mean by didn't use queen excluder in the right way? So Cody was asking, what do you mean didn't use a queen excluder in the right way? So you can stick a queen excluder on before you are really ready for it. And a lot of times what happens is new beekeepers, and this was me, I guess 16 years ago, and I'm sticking my package of bees in, I think at this time, then they're drawing out all that comb, and then I stick a queen excluder on and then add the next box and its foundation. That is not the correct way to use a queen excluder. I highly recommend, if you're wanting to do something like that, then you need to pull up some frames to get them to start working those in the second box. And then once they've actually begun drawing a little bit, you can stick all of the brood. You can even shake all the bees down the bottom box, then put your excluder on. Because what happens is they don't see those frames of foundation as space until they start getting some comb up there, until they've committed to them. And if that excluder does deter them a little bit from going up in there. And it really depends on the condition of your hives too. So like on my big ones, I'm going to have an upper entrance on them. So they're going to be able to go over the excluder if they want to. Before your honey flow starts, well before your honey flow starts, because bees have a memory, you need to get that upper entrance if you want an upper entrance above that queen excluder, so that those bees, as they are emerging and going on they're doing their stuff, and then they get to the age of orientation flight. Once they get to that orientation flight, if you already have that entrance up top, then they're going to like to use that and go above the excluder right into the honey supers. Whoa, Norma, you're catching swarms? When should I check them again? Where are you at, Norma? You don't have to answer that question, but man, you're already making me jealous. So, how often should you check them, first year beekeeper? Thanks. Well, me personally, see, we have all kinds of opinions out there. Some people say, if you check your bees too much, you're going to kill them. I've literally heard that. And long inspections are stressful to the colony, but quick little inspections where you just go in, maybe pull 1-2 frames, light bit of smoke, get on out. You can do an inspection like that in 3 to 5 minutes. Just see that they've got eggs, just a couple little things like that. But as far as a swarm, I'd probably give them a week. myself, and just check them every 10 to 14 days. Make sure that they have some feed and all that kind of stuff if you don't have a lot of nectar coming in. Nutrition is so important for everything. Hey, Ryan Earlspees, thanks for coming on. They're swarming in South Georgia. Suggestion for the best places to put swarm box. I'm in East Tennessee, going to be putting some out this weekend. So that's an interesting question. It's really hard to know. So for those of you who don't know, drones have what's called a DCA, a drone congregation area. We don't fully understand why they congregate in these certain areas. We're still trying to figure some of this stuff out. But bees have their reasons. And one thing I do know about swarm trapping is there are locations that are hot every year. We catch one swarm there like every year, and sometimes two in that one location. There's some places, and it looks to be just as good on the edge of a tree line. I really don't want them deep in the woods where they have to fly through trees to get to the box. And, they're just in the same type of conditions, same height off the ground, all this kind of stuff. And so that's just part of the experimentation side of it, is that you just got to stick some up in what you think is best and then find what are the hot spots. And after about 2 years, if it's not been hot, we don't use that location anymore. We'll move them somewhere else. But you'll find if you do a bunch of swarm trapping, there are spots, excuse me, that are great every year. Hey, Fisher Quality Construction. I have not had a chance to read anything about that stinging nettle. I apologize. I've been so busy, and I had forgotten about it. Let's see here. So are you using any VSH queens for testing? So I have had VSH queens in the past, and, I really didn't find them anything to write home about myself personally. I'm not saying they don't slow the mites down a little bit, but is it an extra month? Is it maybe 2 months? To me, I didn't see a big difference. That was just me personally. But then again, this is just the eye test. And I feel like with having a yard dedicated in the future towards just this, not for honey production, not for making nucleus, split colonies off of the cell where you're moving mites out of the yard that way, having a yard dedicated for monthly alcohol washes to see which ones are controlling mites, which ones are not only maybe controlling mites, but also looking good, because there's colonies that don't perform very well. They don't brood heavily. And that affects how efficient the Varroa mites are at brooding really well. So there's a lot of variables to it. But VSH queens, in my opinion, it depends on how they're mated and how they're raised. But I have not seen anything special. I've ordered as many as 50 at a time of those. Let's see. What are the best queens? Well, the ones that my wife grafts and raises, obviously. But I will say that of all the queens that I've purchased, and I don't know how many queens I've purchased over the years, probably 400, maybe 500 queens over the years. And out of all of those, the only ones that I purchased that I thought, man, I have got to order from them again, is Michael Palmer out of Vermont. Their genetics are not made for Tennessee. It doesn't matter. The quality is good. The queens are good. And me personally, if you give me a quality queen from California, Georgia, any state, I feel like I can make honey with it. Is it going to perform as good as one of my high quality queens raised at the same level? Probably not, because there are some local factors to it. But ultimately, if she's mated well and she was raised with good nutrition, she's going to kick butt and take names. So do you recommend any books or classes to become a better beekeeper? Or is it just getting into your hives every 7 to 10 days and trying things? Thanks. That is a little bit of everything. Experience, there's nothing like it. It's hard to get someone that has great experience for you to shadow under, because people like me who are trying to produce a lot of honey and stuff, there's just no way that I can spend the time to have people shadowing me all the time. I just can't do it. And literally, if I open those floodgates, I'd probably have 100 people over here already. And I like that. I mean, I like the fact that people want to learn. I wish I could help more than what I'm able to now. But honestly, books, Dr. Larry Connor's books, very good. Randy Oliver's website, Scientific Beekeeping. Not all of his information is perfect. And I think Randy would be honest and say that. I found a couple of his things to be excellent, really helpful. And I found a couple of his things that, especially the oxalic acid one on there, about the vaporizer being as efficient as they say that it is. 4 or 5 treatments going to control 90% of the mites. I have not found that in multiple tests to be the case. Of course, it's just me, but ultimately, it's me. I mean, it's got to work for me, or it's not working. I don't care if it works for everybody else in the world. I've got to control those mites, and it's got to be done correctly. I really enjoy some older books. Walter T. Kelly's "How to Keep Bees and Sell Honey," great fundamental old book. Honestly, if you're looking for good books, Dr. Larry Connor's books are really good, and we have links to them in our Amazon link below. But there's other places you can get them as well. But I'm always liking the free shipping stuff. Okay. Yeah. So backyard bees said, but for 10 days on oxalic acid packaging. So someone asked, when should I treat oxalic acid to the packages? Yeah, 7 to like 9 days is really key. Feed them. Feeding definitely helps, I think, with a lot of different things, and it won't hurt with the oxalic acid. But yeah, if you can hit them before they cap that brood around 7, 9, 10 days max, that's going to be awesome. Okay, so Kate Rector asks, how do multiple queens end up in a swarm? So I don't fully understand this, and this is where Thomas Seeley's Honeybee Democracy book and a couple other things about just bees and how they do things explains this more. But you have multiple different types of swarms, and when a prime swarm typically sets out in spring, say we get one of our colonies really large, like we do, and then we don't give them enough space, we don't pull them back and pull brood, they're going to swarm at some point, no matter what we do. I mean, just bees want to swarm if they're really healthy. So but let's say we let them swarm. So it's going to head out typically with the original queen. I've got this tickle in my throat. It's killing me. And that's one queen right there. But then they can swarm again. And usually it's the after swarms that have most of them, and they're virgin queens. And there could be 9, 10 virgin queens in that swarm. They just emerge around the same time. And at that point, they don't kill each other. Like sometimes when they get that swarming impulse, they all just leave out of the hive, and then you pull them apart and you have a bunch of virgins in there. Excuse me. I had to eat something. I'm hungry. So Vinco, he's over. I can't remember which country you're in, man. It's over there. Is it Greece or is it Croatia? I can't remember, but he was saying brood breaks with oxalic acid are so important. And not only does it help make the oxalic acid much more efficient, but the brood breaks are also damaging to the Varroa mites as well. Take a spoonful of honey. All right. I think I will. No, just kidding. So that is one thing that I have found out. Sorry about all the shaking on the camera. It's because I'm messing around. But with the oxalic acid vapor, it's just not very efficient. A lot of people are saying that it is. And in my experience, and maybe, I don't know, but I know there's some PhDs that agree with me, or I agree with them on this subject, that oxalic acid vapor is very limited with a lot of brood in the hive. And it makes me wonder if this is why people are still experiencing a lot of losses, even though they think they're treating enough. And this is why alcohol washes, as crazy as they are, some people don't like to use them, are still important to know where you're at. Croatia. Yeah, probably. Hey, Yasmin, thanks for coming on. But yeah, brood breaks are so important. All right. So someone asked, why do you like August or September mated queens better? I don't necessarily. I really love queens that are mated in April, May, and June. I do like mating some queens in fall, though, just for late splits and stuff like that. The main thing is having good queens and plenty of drones to service them, and not just any old drone. Okay. Thoughts on long horizontal hives? I think there's nothing necessarily wrong with them at all. It's just different management styles that you're going to have to use. Bees naturally want to go upwards. So you have to realize this with a horizontal hive. And then you're going to have to Make sure that that queen stays in laying room. Once you have a lot of comb, it makes swarming season so much easier because you can save back a couple combs. And if the colony gets really crowded in that brood nest, then you can plug in empty combs where the queen can instantly lay in them. And that really helps alleviate that. You need to make sure that you're getting just always keeping that room for the queen, but also on those long, I mean, not long, but those big, strong hives. It doesn't matter if you have infinite amount of room for the queen. The main thing is just you've got to understand that big, strong colonies with a lot of nutrition coming in are going to want to swarm. And if you don't pull brood from them at some point or make a small split off of them, then that is going to result in a swarm. I really think cutting down the big hives um, strong flow is very helpful. And maybe you do lose a little bit of honey production off of that hive. Maybe you lose a gallon off of it, but you're able to take that. So you have 5 hives like that. Pull a frame brood here, put them all together, throw a queen in there, and the honey production you lose, you can make up for in an extra couple hives or something. Hey, Garrett Biko, thanks for coming on again. I mean, I think you've been on every time. So he says he's got to go and all that stuff. Track me tonight. Well, hey, best of luck for your kids and everything, and hope they you know you get them a spoonful of honey, maybe they'll run extra fast and all that stuff. But anyways, thanks for coming on, Garrett Biko, and helping and supporting this channel. We all appreciate it very much. All right. Yeah, actually, I'm getting over one, Sherry. I hope I don't get a second round of it, and especially since I have to talk this weekend. So that's going to be interesting. Yeah, hey, Keeper 01. Yeah, we got a pretty strong turnout. Hey, Chris, thanks for coming on. But yeah, Garrett Biko, thanks so much. And I hope your kids have a good time with that. I love to see kids doing stuff that's out athletic or just agriculture or something. I'm telling you, the other day I was driving by and I saw some kids throwing some baseballs around, and I couldn't remember the last time I have seen that. When I was a kid, of course, I remember when I got a little handheld device for my birthday and it had pinball on it. And of course I was freaking out. And now, my goodness, we've got everything. It's insane. But when I was a kid, I mean, every kid, the parents kicked them outside. You threw baseball. You did stuff you weren't supposed to. Hopefully, your parents didn't find out. You know, it wasn't anything really bad. My mom always found out, anyways. Laurel's looking at me like I'm that's something really bad. So, Tom Warner is asking how many pounds of per hive is considered good, and that really depends on region. My buddy in Hawaii, if he just focused on honey production, his best ones could probably produce 300 pounds of honey, but they have like 3 different prime honey flows during their season because it's like summer 365 days a year, which is totally unfair. Okay, and we have those fellas up in Canada that have those huge acreages of canola and all kinds of different things. And you all in the north, at least some parts of the north, your flows are kind of butted up together. Our problem is after June, we just drop off the face of the earth when it comes to nectar and doesn't start back up till late August. And so the colonies have to be kept very strong in order to be able to produce any fall honey. And it's pretty bitter. But here, if I can average over 100 pounds a colony, I am stoked. We had some produce 140 pounds last year, but that's on the high end. And just as many colonies, you only produce 70 pounds and 60 pounds. So let's see. So we had someone else ask about the dipping tank. Matthew Alexander, I am releasing that video either tomorrow or the next day, and it's going to have like everything that I know about our wax dipping setup. Sorry it's taking so long to get to that, but should have that up pretty soon. So Cody Overton's asking Ross Rounds, hog, half comb, or cut comb. Got a preference if looking to try that on a hive. Me personally, because of a financial bit, I would just have a shallow frame, or you can use a medium, and then just, they have those squares, you can just punch it out. You could even just use a starter strip, and you have it like that. And it's a lot cheaper than buying that setup. Another thing to think of is you're using the mediums. You punch that out, you're going to have a little strip left, and then you can use that to stick in a quart jar, and you can stick like 1 or 2 of those strips in there. And so you can have like squares of honey, and then you can also have jars that have strips in there for like partial liquid, partial comb. The hog half combs are preferred to the Ross rounds. Ross rounds are pretty intense. So Scooter Bum's asking when we are going to reactivate our Facebook page, and I just don't know. We just don't have any time. I mean, right now I've got to prep for this weekend, and I've still got to set up just tons of stuff for the all the nukes, the hundreds of nukes that we're selling this year, and I just don't have time. A lot of people have been asking me on like Facebook Messenger, what am I not seeing their questions? And I just can't get to people, all everyone's questions on my Facebook page, the Tennessee's Bees page, that other Facebook page. And I hate it, but it's just the reality. And I've got to be able to make this business viable, or we are going to go backwards. And then it's not going to help us, and it's not going to be able to help anybody else either. Let's see. What? So someone asked about the Apame hive. I'm really interested to try it. I know that some people are like, it's all plastic and it's all bad. And it might be. We are going to show you. I mean, if there's something that really stinks on that thing, I'm going to let you know. And if it's really awesome, or they have certain features that are great, I'm going to let you know. It's just videos to inform people, and so they can make better decisions when they purchase things. But have you tried out the Apame pollen feeding frames? And I have not. I'm hoping to. I'm hoping to this year. So Sherry is asking, what do you do for chalk brood this time of the year with all the rain we have been getting? I don't get really chalk brood, to be honest. We breed that out of our bees. I really think it's a genetic problem. There's several other beekeepers that raise their own bees that feel the same way. And obviously keeping your hives dry is very important. Keeping them in good nutrition. Stress is a cause of a lot of those things. But ultimately, I don't really have chalk brood problems. If we see a queen that has one, we get rid of them. So someone asked again if I was feeding probiotics, and I don't. I don't feed probiotics. I've yet to see a good reason to. Just as more beekeepers say that it doesn't help than those that say that it does. I know personally, I've tried a lot of probiotics myself, and a lot of them, I don't see a whole lot of results. So there are some things I have tried actually for human consumption for probiotics that were actually very beneficial. There's so much science to that, and it's hard to tell. I mean, but that's where I want those experimental hives. I want to set up 40, and we can try those out. We can contact those folks and say, hey, we're going to try some of your product out. Let us know how to use it appropriately, and we're going to find out, because if there are probiotics out there, or if there are products out there like essential oils or a mushroom powder one day, we need to be able to sort out what works and what doesn't work. And right now, it's just opinions, pretty much. And the only information, hey, this works great. Look at these increased beekeeping yields, and all the data was gathered by the people who made the product. That's funny. That's what we have mostly in beekeeping right now. Oski Powers, hey, thanks so much for the kind words. Let's see. Yep, it's extremely unwise for humans to. One of your wax tipping videos, we saw a bunch of styrofoam mating nukes. Do you like them? Oh, those are the little mating nukes, and they can be used. I really don't love them because the bees want to abscond out of them very easily. If it gets too hot, you've got to feed them just enough. But if you feed them too much, then they abscond. There's a lot of different problems with those three-way mating nukes. The University of Gulf has some great videos on those mini nukes, and I've got them to work. But honestly, I want to be able to save the brood. You can't really evaluate the queens really good in them. That's why we kind of don't really use them. And I use a couple a year, but mainly we use them for our own personal queens. I don't like selling people queens that I can't evaluate. I don't want to ship off a queen to somebody, and then 2 weeks later they're like, man, this thing's shooting half drone eggs out or something like that. But they can work with very little bees. But I feel like if I just invest a little bit more bees in there, I get a lot more brood out of that queen before I ship her off, because she has more space to lay. Hey, Jeff Upton, thanks for coming on again today. And man, I mean, you're just on here all the time. Thanks so much. We really appreciate it. Let's see. Can you recommend a complete queen rearing kit? Oh man. I actually have a video on that. If you look in our queen rearing section, there's like a video on a few things that you need to buy for queen rearing or whatever. And it's really not that expensive. It's just a couple items. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5, and they're really not that expensive. You get the Chinese grafting tools like we have in our Amazon link. I think you can get 10 for $7 or something like that, and that'll last you a really long time. There's also you can also get them at queen rearing supplies, but I find some things are cheaper on Amazon, some things are not. That's why I look on there. Usually they come from the same places. Most of these Chinese, I mean, products that are in these companies are made in China as well. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff Dufton, for coming up so much. But yeah, the queen rearing stuff, it really doesn't cost that much. You just need some JZBZ cups. I think in the video it shows you the bars, you got the frames, grafting tool. That's about it. Then you got to get a hive ready for them. Just strong amount of bees, queenless. There's several different ways to go about it. All right, so I mean, there's several other there's other systems out there, but as far as cheap and definitely works really good, just the normal grafting system works well. And the difference between people that are good at grafting and poor at grafting is just experience. That's all it is. Get out there, and even if you don't need queens, graft some larvae. Try it out, get some experience. Let's see. What would be some of the reasons the bees reject all eggs in the grafting frame? Well, one, if they got chilled or something like that. Maybe they got dried out. They got left out a little too long. That can happen. Also, if there's a little bitty cell in there, maybe you missed a little bit and there's some larvae they're able to work with and they're starting one of those, that'll do it. What we got? Oh, people who are good at the operation game are good at grafting. You know what? I've never really played the game of Operation.
What?
I have not. Maybe we'll get it. The kids will love it.
I love it.
Let's see. Do you like the cloak board method? I have really no experience with it, but I know some serious beekeepers who love it, and they it does well. There's so many different systems. My buddy in Hawaii raises like 8,000, I mean 800 to 1,000 queens a month, and he uses a totally different system than I do. I use queenless starters and then a queen right finisher. Hey, can you guys still see me? Laurel's saying we're having some technical difficulties on our end. Can you see me live right now? Maybe. But anyways, yeah, there's several different ways to do it. So what's your opinion on single brood box management? It's yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for letting us know. So single brood box management, I think, is great. You've got to have some combs above it. You got to know that when your bees need pulled back from pulling a little bit of brood, keeping them from swarming is really helpful. But I mean, single brood management, I'm going to be doing that exclusively this year, and we're going to be doing some very detailed videos on that. Ian Stepler has a couple that are really good as well. I just think that it makes a lot of sense. It makes it so much more efficient on the beekeeper. And even if you have to pull a little bit of brood out there to keep them from swarming, just one frame, you can go down in there and you can see where all the swarm cells are. If you see a full frame of honey down in there on the edges, pull it out, scoot things over, drop in a frame of comb if you've got one to spare. That helps so much. Some people say never disrupt the brood nest. I agree with that if there are major weather fluctuations. But me personally, I have no problem with pulling out a frame of honey on the side of that single brood nest if I'm already down in there. I'm not going to make a special trip. If I'm down there, they're pretty, full up on space, and I have the combs to spare. I'll plug in one right in the center. I don't care. Bees will do fine. So the 2-frame mating nuke. Okay. That is just not working. I get rid of that lozenge. So the 2-frame mating nuke does work. I really think with just a tiny bit more wood, it would pay so much more in going a little bit bigger. So think about this: the two-way mating nuke, you've got the same length on two sides as a 10 frame deep, and then you have two skinny sides on the front and back for the two frame spacing sides. All you need is just a little bit more wood, and you can go 3, 4, or 5 frames. Me personally, I totally think that two frames are very limited. They can only be used for mating. If they fill them up, they're going to swarm. That you can't overwinter them, at least not in my area. And I think bees don't overwinter very well unless they have a good 3 frames. They can overwinter on less than that, but they don't build up well without 3 good frames of coverage. Me personally, on mating nukes, I want at least 3 frames in the mating nuke. That's just my personal opinion. I think the 2 frame, you can just add a little bit of wood and you can get a whole lot more results. If you get a 5 frame box, 4 frame box, you can overwinter 4 framers, piece of cake. People do it in Vermont. Yeah, like Brent said, they are hard to work and get in and out of, and they don't save you much material. Hey, I've got a video. If you go back in some of our older videos where I'm visiting my buddy in Hawaii, he's got a 5 frame nuke set up. I've got a video on that. We're pulling 2 queens out of it. It's a 5 frame nuke with a divider down the middle, 2 frames on one side, 3 on the other. And the thing of it is, you can pull out that dividing board in the middle. You can make these yourself. And now you've got a 5 frame nuke you can overwinter. I think that versatility is worth it. Totally worth it. But I really think the 2 frame mating nuke um, is kind of overrated. That's just me personally. Well, I mean, when should you start looking for swarm cells? That really depends on your season. But I mean, goodness, we'll have some colonies with swarm cells, I promise you, within the next week or two. But those are on our massive colonies that are 16 frames of bees, 14, 16 frames of bees, 4 frames of brood. Our ones that are 5 frames of bees right now, they're not going to be swarming anytime soon. So, do you have a formula for homemade winter and spring patties? Pollen patties. I have some videos that have all the instructions on that. Yeah, it's not that the 2 framers don't work. They do. I mean, it's just like with my buddy. He's got the 5 frame nuke system. And he's got 2 frames on one side, and it works. It totally works. I just think with a little bit more wood, you can give yourself more options. That's the thing. The queens, bees don't care. I mean, they'll use those little mini nukes if you do them right. They're just they're more particular. And the smaller that you get your mating nukes, the more, in my opinion, tedious it gets. And you have to get your system just right. How soon can you OA a nuke? I mean, if the bees are established, I mean, you can do it. Hey Brent, congratulations on 100% survival. You can do it at any time on OA OAVN a nuke, oxalic acid vapor. As soon as you bring the bees from somebody, just hit them with some oxalic acid vapor. Hey, the hive and the homestead, thanks for coming on. Let's see, 2 brood boxes. So 2 brood boxes packed. Do I add a third and keep feeding? I mean, if they need the space, yes. I don't know exactly. If the bees have tons of food, then they probably don't need it. On a big double deep colony, I want 3 or 4 full frames of honey or sugar syrup or a mixture of both. I mean, obviously, if you're fixing to produce honey, you need to cut out the feeding. But most people don't have enough feed in their hives. They don't realize how much that they need. And if it's a 10 frame hive or stronger, there should never be less than I think 3 deeps worth of feed in there if you're wanting full productivity out of that colony. I haven't used any of the plastic Pro Nukes, Brent. I have one that I'm going to be using this year in some videos and seeing how well they use. I hear that the biggest problem is when they get cold. If you drop them, they crack, kind of like totes and other plastic things. So that could be a big issue. One of the nice things about the Easy Nuke Jester boxes that I'm going to be using for our nukes this year is that they do much better in regards to durability. They can last a few years. So, what do I think about Formic Pro for Varroa mites? I'm not a Formic guy. I don't care if it says organic, more natural. all that stuff. It burns brood up here in Tennessee. I've never used Formic in a way that worked well for me. Now, some people use it correctly, but I think it's one of those things where you've got to understand your weather. You've also got to understand what's going to be happening. And I think Formic is one of the roughest treatments that we have for bees and Varroa mites right now. Well, Bryn, I mean, and they have some really nice advantages too on those Pro Nuke boxes. They make it to where you can feed them a little bit better, and they have a little more space. They have some really well thought out ideas in them. I'm just My concern is if I dropped one or tightened a strap across them too tight, then are they going to crack on me? Do nukes promote a queen to lay more brood for swarming due to the small box size? Thus, a nuke is a brood factory. Yeah, Michael Palmer has some great stuff on nukes being brood factories. It really has more to do with size. I mean, think about this. So, if you have a colony that's got 3 or 4 deeps worth of bees, that doesn't mean they're necessarily raising more brood than a 10 frame colony that's packed with bees, because the queen can, she only has so much that she can lay. So, eventually, the hive tops out. And I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages. But let's say you had one 10 frame box and you split that up into 5 2 framers, and each one has a queen. That's really not going to lay more brood than one great queen with plenty of nutrition and that one, all those 10 frames put together. But if you have a good 5 frame nuke or something and have multiple sets that have a lot of good bee coverage and good nutrition, they raise tons of brood, and it's worker brood. They're not trying to raise a lot of drones. Once bees start getting around 7 8 frames of bees, they start wanting to raise drones more. Just the bees are much more efficient around that 8 frame, 10 frame, 5 frame size for raising lots of workers. They feel the pressure, I think, more. When do you remove your entrance reducers? What entrance reducers? I really don't put a whole lot of them on. I'm a little lazy in that regard, but big hives will kill any mice that try to get in there. And we're very mild here, so our bees can get out a lot and do things. But I would take them off as soon as the bees start flying quite a bit, as long as the population's good. If it's 10 frames strong, get those things off. Yeah, like what Fallen Angel said, hit the like button. That really helps our videos. It really does. Let's see. Will bees move the sugar water that is stored in their comb up into the honey supers? I wouldn't want them to mix it in with the honey. I mean, if they have a ton of it and you put on the honey, I mean, if you've been like feeding and they've got tons and tons of it, and then you stick some honey supers on, right afterwards, I think so. Yeah, I think they totally would. And that's why I don't like putting on honey supers within, a month of feeding. And honestly, we don't feed a whole lot this time of the year. We're going to spot feed a few colonies, but then again, most of the colonies that we're going to be feeding are not the ones that are going to be for honey production for us. So do your feeding this coming year in fall. Get in there during your fall flow towards the middle of the way through it. See what the bees look like. And if they don't have enough to go through winter, start feeding them a little early. It's better to feed a little too early in the fall than too late, and let them go through winter on it instead of having to make up for it and trying to winter feed or early spring feed. All right, let's see where we at. What about Hop Guard? I don't have a ton of experience with it. I did purchase, I think, 100 strips at one point, and I don't know. I haven't done enough experiments with it to give a perfectly good, um, you know, scientific test on it. But there's a reason why most pros are not using stuff like Hop Guard and things like that. It's because they're not super efficient. And I mean, I don't know anyone that's like, oh man, I love Hop Guard. And there's reasons for that. Me personally. Now, could you use it and get a little bit of mite kill and then use something else with it? Absolutely. Yeah, Apivar will not stop the queens from laying. You can feed with Apivar in the hive. A lot of people don't like the chemical treatment, and that's fine. We're going to try to do more videos and find the time this year to use, thymol and use products like oxalic acid and just show you more stuff. But I really feel like it's better to use the Apivar and keep your bees alive because you can learn a lot from alive bees, and you can actually make honey with alive bees, and you can pay for your hobby with live bees. And then as you get those skills, then you can start tinkering around a little bit more. I was bad about tinkering around too early, and I lost a lot of bees because of it. So try not to be as much like me, and do the best that you can. You don't have to use Apivar. I'm not saying you have to, but it does seem to work very well. We don't use it a lot, but in my experience, it has done good. Does very good. Yeah, Apiguard is promoted around here as well, and I think thymol is a decent treatment, but just like all of them, it has to be used correctly. And I still recommend a mite wash afterwards because um, you can't just use it once a year and like, okay, we're done. We brewed. I have some colonies that I think had brewed in them 12 months out of the year this year. It was so mild. So we're raising mites almost 12 months out of the year. Are you using damari method for honey production? No, I don't use that method. Basically, I mean, it might be the same thing that I'm doing for all I know. I don't know hardly anything about the damari method, but we just reduce them down to singles. We throw combs on top, keep the bees from swarming, and let the nectar roll in. How do you get honeydew honey? That is a question I really don't know the answer to. I don't think we produce hardly any honeydew honey around here. And I think that I know there's aphids. I know there's tons of aphids around here, all over my tomato plants every year. And maybe we do produce a little bit, but not that I have really noticed. So I think it really just depends on your area and how many aphids there are, and maybe what they're eating. What? Let's see. Diatomaceous earth for mites. It doesn't work because if it gets on the bees, it'll start eating them up and chewing up their wings and all their joints and stuff, and it will wipe the bees out. So you've definitely got to keep that away from your bees. Now you can put it underneath the hive and trays, and any small hive beetle larvae or beetles or anything like that that falls down into it, it will kill them. Sorry, guys. Apparently, there's been some idiots or spammers on here today. I didn't see it. Laurel gave the look of someone's fixing to. So the person's gone now. But when Laurel gets mad, it's not good. Laurel is very slow to get angry. She's like the Hulk. Was it Ben? Oh, okay. Well, Laurel said shut up. So this is me shutting up. Ban hammer. That's right. Did OA followed by Apivar last fall? All my hives not only made it through winter, but local beaks are shocked how strong they are in late January. Now filling supers up in February. Thanks, Kay. And I mean, you're the one that did the work, Yuri. So congratulations on your hives doing so well. I know a lot of people don't like the thoughts of using Apivar, and I'm kind of one of them. I'd rather use more natural things, but at the end of the day, it works better than the natural stuff. It's so gentle on the bees. It kills mites well in my experience. And people are like, oh, the strips are so expensive. You know how expensive it is to buy a hive of bees? It's not cheap. And there's been a lot of research showing that it doesn't build up in the wax like a lot of people think it does. It doesn't persist in the hive for long periods of times. I'm not saying everyone needs to go out there and start using Apivar, but I am saying if you're a new beekeeper and you're wanting to try to eliminate mites easily, oxalic acid vapor combined with a Apivar regimen is a very good combo. Both are gentle, and between the two of those, you're getting two different methods of killing the mites, and that way you're preventing them from building up resistance to one or the other. Okay. Okay, so Fallen Angel, thank you. We'll be the first time beekeepers. Any golden rules to keep in mind? So there are a lot of different golden rules. Our main three ones are great queens, dead mites, and good nutrition. Even if you just have an average queen, though, that works pretty well if you have good nutrition and you have dead mites. Mites are a big problem. A lot of people underestimate them, and even when they do treat them, they don't realize how many mites they produce in their season. And so they thought getting them knocked back once was good enough. And in areas down in the south with long breeding cycles, you've got to get them down more than once. I treat in the winter, I treat in spring, I treat in fall. And Then the nutritional side of things is first year colonies usually take a lot of nutrition. Some people think, oh man, nature's going to take care of things. It's been doing it for, forever, or whatever they say. And the thing of it is, nature will kick your butt and take your name if it decides to. Some years it's not very gentle on the bees, and first year colonies are like a newborn calf that doesn't have a mother. It needs a little bit of help, and a little bit of sugar syrup and pollen sub will really help get them to that position. Now, some people have it easier than others. You start a hive in like my buddy's area in Hawaii, and you don't really have to feed them at all, but you need to be in there looking. There needs to be honey around the brood. There needs to be bee bread. There needs to be healthy brood, and that's going to result from good nutrition, whether that's being fed to them or nature's providing it. Yeah, and honestly, once if you can get to the point, Fallen Angel, where you're having success and you know the recipe for success, maybe it's not the ideal way that you'd like to go about it, then you have a foundation, and then you can go from there and try new things out. But you can always return back to that success. Hey, Vinco. No, we don't trade tribes with them. Three Amatraz. We actually don't use Apivar very much. We did use it in some videos last year and on some splits. But actually, thymol, we use that in June, and we use oxalic acid vapor. We make splits specifically at certain times to where there's full mite exposure when we make those splits on both sides at certain points. And then we can hit them with oxalic acid vapor and get a good knockback with that, and then follow up with some thymol or something. We'd really try to mix it up here. Let's see. Cayman, how do you make the finisher colonies after you have made the queen cells? So basically, we're just taking a really strong colony, like a honey production size colony. We're reducing the space a little bit so that's kind of cramped conditions. We have the queen down below in a single deep queen excluder. Then in the next box above, it's a double deep system. We are going to have frames of larvae that we pull up, which is going to entice nurse bees to come up there and be right around them. And then in between that, we are going to take those started cells that are like a day or two old. Usually I pull them out within 36 hours or something, stick them in there, and either there's a lot of nutrition coming in or we're feeding pollen patties and sugar syrup. And then it's got to have a lot of packed bees, and that got to have that queen excluder there. But we'll bring frames of brood from other colonies and keep these colonies insanely packed and strong. And because of that strength and nutrition, they're going to raise massive healthy queen cells. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that only use Apivar strips, and there's a lot of people that are talking about resistance to Amitraz. There's actually been research recently that is showing that there is no or very little resistance towards Amitraz. The problem is a lot of stuff in beekeeping is rumors and opinions, and I have a lot of opinions on here as well. But sometimes people make opinions based off of what they want more than what reality is. And a lot of people don't like chemical beekeeping, especially new beekeepers. I respect that. I like organic gardening. I like all of that stuff. But the reality of it is it's still working for a lot of beekeepers. Um, so, I mean, we all have to make our own opinions. I try to avoid it. But at the same time, I want you all to understand, I think, what the truth is. And so that's why I talk about it. I have not tried to treat the mites with heat yet, but I'm going to really try to do some videos on that this year, Matthew, and hopefully we can get a better understanding about killing mites with heat this year. Can I get that? Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on either. All right, so I'm going to address something. I don't know what's going on, but there are some people that say that we're censoring Christians on here. Anyone saying that's lying because we don't do that. I don't know what's going on, but this is a beekeeping talk. I'm the only the stuff that I've seen taken off have been nasty, and I don't care if you're a Christian or not, they're not allowed on this channel. So if you have any issues, you know where the door is. All right. Not really, or I wouldn't have to ask. What are you anyway? Are you? Oh yeah, Keeper 01. He's one of our subs. He's been around for a while. Anyways, I don't know what's going on. Let's get back to beekeeping. So I think there's some people hopping on and just doing stuff. I don't know. You know. Well, anyway, so one of the things I also want to talk about as far as this upcoming year is on the honey production side of things. We are going to be having 1 yard dedicated for that. I'm really excited because we're going to probably have like 50 colonies over there that's just going to be focused on honey production out of our best yard. And we're going to be able to do a lot of really cool honey production videos this year. I'm hoping to be able to show you how we put on the supers, how we take them off, kind of the single brood management, showing you what we look for. Now we've got a better camera this year, and I think we have a better understanding of what we needed to do. I mean, this time last year, we just had a few hundred subs and we were still learning a lot of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, we have some people that are coming on and messing with our channel. That is what it is, because this is not random, and it's just a shame that they're using Christian stuff to mess with things. I personally am a Christian, and any Christian ought to know better than to be doing something like this. So, you know, being respectful, tactful, tasteful, sometimes knowing when to shut up, good qualities of a Christian. I struggle with that last one just a little bit. Yeah. So, anyways, now that we got that taken out of the way, so this weekend I'm going to be in Maysville, Kentucky. I'm going to be doing 3 different classes. One on what's killing your bees. I'm going to be doing one on nutrition, and I've talked about some of this stuff here. We're going to try to get in a little more of the nitty gritty. I'm going to talk about Varroa treatments as well, and different things like that. Several people have asked if I'll come out and speak, and I will if I have the time and all that kind of stuff. So I'm probably going to be in several other states this year. I know I'm going to be at some conferences later on. Some of these places, though, like the one I went to last week, they want them to be private for their own personal groups, so that we don't have 30 other people or 50 or 60 people flood in. They want to be able to focus on their people, and I totally can do that as well. We don't have to announce it and all that kind of stuff. Hey, Fallen Angel, thanks for coming on. Thanks for subbing to our channel. Let's see. We got a sermon going on today. Yeah, anyone that's doing that, cut them off. It's just disgusting, absolutely disgusting, and a shame. Have you used Brewers yeast in pollen patties? I have not. Um, I really haven't tried ever making my own pollen subs, and it's due to a lack of time. And once you start reading all the different things and the ratio of trace minerals and macro nutrients and all that kind of stuff, it gets really complicated quick. And that is why I just kind of let the guys that make pollen sub do their thing. I mix it up myself to save myself some money, but I do know there are some recipes out there. But I honestly have never tried a homemade recipe before. So yeah, Aaron, I'm expecting swarming from the biggest colonies to happen here within 2 to 3 weeks, and those are from colonies that are probably in cavities that are a little too small, and they're going to jump out. Or beekeepers that have a really good colony in like one single brood box, and they think, well, it's too cold this time of the year. They're not going to swarm when we're still dropping down into the 30s. Yeah, they will if the conditions are met, especially if you're feeding them. So just keep a mind onto that and get your swarm traps out early. One person's asking if I gone through a master beekeeping courses. I've taken several courses, but I'm not a certified master beekeeper. And most of my favorite beekeepers are not. Most successful beekeepers that I listen to aren't. But I think it's a good program. Some of them are. I do know some master beekeeping programs that are atrocious that I've sat in for some of their classes, and the people that they have teaching them aren't very good. And I'm not here to name names, and I'm not going to. Let's see. I don't know. I'll just leave it alone. I don't know why everyone's got their doing weird stuff today, but I don't even know where I was at. Can you wax dip a painted hive box? Yes, and I've got a video tomorrow that I'm going to be releasing on that, and it covers that. But you totally can dip a painted box. It'll seal around the paint, any area that the paint is not getting correctly. It will seal that up completely. It will fade your paint quite a bit. Any resources recommended for new beekeepers? Goodness gracious. I don't know. Um, you know, How to Keep Bees and Sell Honey is a really good beekeeping book. You can get that from Walter T. Kelly for I think $7 or $8. It's got some good fundamental beekeeping information. That's a great book. Dr. Larry Connor's books are good. Scientificbeekeeping.com. Yeah, Michael Palmer has a pollen patty recipe. Oops, I just hit the table. Yeah, Michael Palmer has a pollen patty recipe with using Ultra Bee. I'm using sugar, vegetable oil, and hot water. It does work very well. I can't remember the ratios though. Hey, Theresa Willer, sorry about all these nuts that are on here today. We're in the process of eliminating them. If everyone can just please ignore them, um, it's all that kind of stuff. And honestly, we're here to talk bees. The time and place for everything. I think that's in the Bible, actually. Yeah, it is. There's a time and place for everything. All right. When bees abscond, will they find swarm traps also? I think it depends on what kind of abscond it is. If they are absconding as like in kind of like a swarm and they're healthy and like maybe it's too hot or something, yes, I believe that they would. But if they're absconding because they're full of viruses and stuff like that, then they're dying as they go out. They'll rush out, but those bees are so virus ridden and everything. Even if they did go in your swarm trap, they're not going to be worth keeping if they're absconding over viruses and stuff like that. Let's see. Yeah, I do need some more moderators and stuff. It's too bad. So, I mean, next time I'll take necessary precautions on that and all that kind of stuff. I got some people that would probably be willing to do it. So let's see. Is colony collapse disorder real? Oh man, that's a great question right there. So I don't think that it is as real as a lot of people think it is. When colony collapse disorder happened several years ago, I think it started seeing signs of it in 2006, if I'm correct, or something like that. I think it was just compounding factors. This is what really bothers me is we've had scientists that have come to the RB clubs and these conferences, and they talk for like an hour about almost nothing. And I understand we have to have some research, but this is the way I look at it. It doesn't matter if you're a PhD to me. You need to say something that's going to make sense that I can understand. I know I'm not the smartest person in the world, but if you lay it in layman's terms, I should be able to understand it. And I should be able to apply it to either better understand the situation or better keep my bees. But I keep going to these classes, and then I'll sit there for an hour. I don't learn anything. And then they'll say, well, we spent $1.2 million. I've heard this $1.2 million on CCD research. And well, this is what we know it's not. Me personally, I think it's a combination of new viruses, small hive beetle adding some pressure, but primarily Varroa mites and the viruses and stuff like that. And there's pressures from poor nutrition, poor years that don't produce good pollens and stuff, and also fungicides and herbicides and stuff like that. So I think CCD is just a combination. It's a really nice name, and it was extremely good at getting people into beekeeping, which makes money for the big people, and also is extremely great if you're a researcher because they've been getting millions of dollars. Beekeeping is not unlike any other industry. It's all about the honey. I mean, money. Justin Sorensen, thanks for coming on, man, and thanks for contributing to our channel. Cayman, do you have any information regarding what mated queens are fed by the workers? I am trying to figure out why mated queens cannot live without attendants. Well, I don't know if it's all necessarily the feed. I think you could feed the queen the best diet. You could give them everything that they needed, but I don't know if it's psychological is the right term, but there's pheromones at play they're such a social insect. And I can see a huge difference. If I have a queen in a cage by herself, they don't do very well for very long. They don't last very long. If she has attendants in there, they do a lot better. And what I find that's even better, and a lot of beekeepers are doing when they ship queens, and this is how we like to do it, is let's say you're shipping out 50 queens. You're going to stick them in these bars. I'll try to get a picture sometime, and you just get a bunch of queens in these bars, and they're alone in there with the queen candy. But then you can dump half a pound or so of bees in there, and then you put feed and water in there for those nurse bees and whatnot to be able to absorb and take care of. And it kind of feels more like a hive environment. And it's amazing. They just do so much better with bees. They're such a social insect, and we know a lot about pheromones to a degree. And we know a decent bit, but I know there's so much more that we don't know. And I think the more that we can mimic that hive environment, that healthy hive, the better our queens are going to do. But yeah, you can see a huge difference whenever you get queens individual, on an individual basis. Let's see. So let's see. Yeah, they do need some company. They're really social. What is the best cheap attractants for swarm traps? Lemongrass essential oil works really good if you already have some. I know beekeepers who say that they use anise, which is another essential oil, and it works well for them. I don't know. I've never tried anise. Lemongrass does work very well. You don't have to use very much. A little bit goes a long way. Hey Sherry, I hope our videos have helped you. Yeah, they're rattling my train of thought a little bit, and we will do a better job taking care of this next week. It's been really good up to this point. We're glad that our videos are helping you, and we don't have all the information. There are several YouTubers out there that are good as well. I really like Richard Noel. At the University of Gulf has some good videos. Ian Stepler has some videos for more of the sideliner to professional side, but you can still learn some fundamental things from him. And see, there are people that get on to me like, you shouldn't recommend Ian Stepler. He's this terrible guy. Well, he does things differently than some of us, and you don't have to do it the way he does it. That doesn't mean you can't pick up some good tips. You cannot produce the amount of honey that he does. I mean, I don't understand it necessarily, but these professionals, that even though they're maybe doing stuff that people don't like, they are keeping their bees alive. Not only to the point they're making a living off of it, but they're also keeping them alive to the point where they're selling bees to everybody too. So they have to be doing some things right. And that doesn't mean you have to do everything the way that they do, but it's better to learn from someone who can keep their bees alive than to learn from someone who's got all these holistic ideals, which I love natural stuff, but is all talk and no show. And there's a lot of those on the internet. Hey, Ewa, Britt, and Yasmin, all those European folks, you guys thawing out yet? Yeah, I'm thinking, yes, anise works really well. I've never tried it, but I would really love to. As far as queens go and genetics and all that kind of stuff, some of the ones that are, like inbred and stuff like that, or not mated properly, that's a problem. Some people think, well, nature does everything perfectly. Nature's all about survival, and nature is very brutal. So nature selects for bees that don't necessarily have the traits that we want. Gentle behavior, bees that don't want to swarm extremely aggressively. I think as beekeepers, we do need to select for bees that are a little bit better in certain ways. Um, Nature, can have a hive out there that has chalk brood problems, and it'll just keep reproducing. If it's still able to survive and keep reproducing, it's just going to spread those drones and bad genetics out there. I personally want to get rid of that. I just think there's a balance to it. There's got to be a nature element, absolutely, but there also has to be a little bit of stuff going on in the old noodle at the same time, trying to select for better bees. I think you can go too far. You totally can. But I think that it's a poor idea to let your weak colonies in your bee yard just breed with your best ones. So there's got to be a balance. But I would prefer bees that are a little bit too open mated and have too much diversity than doing something like artificial insemination. There's got to be a balance. We need it all. Hey, Galen. Thanks for coming on tonight, and have a good night's sleep. Let's see. Hey, Eva. I know it's 3:20 a.m. there, and I really it means so much. I covet my sleep. I really do. And the fact that you guys are getting up so early to watch the videos is really, really sweet and humbling. Yeah. Hey, Bush, hippie. So you started reading the book, The Honeybee Democracy, and hey, I've read the book twice, and some of that stuff is over my head. Towards the end, you get into a little bit more stuff towards building swarm traps and more practical information. Some of it is just building up to getting to that practical information, some sciencey stuff in there. I think overall it's a really good book. But yeah, it's not one you can just it's not a light read on some parts of it. And we need people like Dr. Thomas Seeley doing what he's doing. He's definitely one of those guys that's kind of like some of my friends. They're very intellectual. I'm not I think I'm relatively smart, but I'm not one of those kind of guys. And you know, I- we need all types. And the thing of it is, we got to respect one another and work together. That's one of the things I'm really going to stress in this talk is we've got to whether you use chemicals in the hive like Apivar or you don't, treatment free, all that stuff. Now, I know that I don't recommend people do treatment free, but if you want to do that, do it. But make sure that you are checking and seeing if you lose a hive, what the reason is. Do an autopsy on it because if you're losing bees to Varroa or anything and you're not finding out why you lost your hive, then you're doomed to repeat it again. But as beekeepers, we've got to collaborate more. We've got to work together. We have a lot of issues. And who's to say the Asian hornet doesn't come to all of our locations here in the US? Who's to say we don't get a new virus? Who's to say we don't get a new pest? It is only through collaboration, working together, that we can get ahead of these problems. I feel like right now we're kind of on the brink of getting better education, better fundamental education out there. And we need good hobby beekeepers. They are important. I think some people, especially the professionals, some of them are a little haughty and arrogant. Some of them are great people, very wonderful people. And we need everybody. We all are impacting in small ways. And it's the same way with government. It's the same way with everything. Even if you have just two or three hives, it matters. Even if you just one vote, it matters. And whether it doesn't really matter to me that when people are different, what matters is when they're arrogant and they're not open to listening. Ian Stepler just had a video on this as well. And it's something we all have to work on. It's just really hard, especially when you're being attacked by people. But we definitely need everybody to just give it their best. And as long as we can come to the table, and even if we disagree on, I'm going to use a polystyrene hive, or I'm going to use wooden hives, or I'm going to use thymol, or I'm going to use apivar. Overall, we need to just work on taking care of the bees to our ability as best as possible. So let's get off of that soapbox now that we're all nice and lathered up, and let's get back to some bee questions. Yeah, pesticides are really rough, and thankfully in my area we don't have a lot of commercial agriculture, so we have very little pesticides here. They are extremely rough on bees. Herbicides, not so much. I do have on one of my bee yards, and it's on a farm. He plants clover there every year. Very productive yard for me. Extremely productive yard for me. He sprays 2,4-D and Roundup some years within like 6 feet of the hives. It really was eye opening because you know what I noticed? I didn't have any bee losses. My bees still did really good over there, but the nutrition is exceptional. I take care of the varroa mites and herbicides as long as the bees, it kills like within 24 hours. So I mean, as long as you spray it, don't spray it a bee right on the bee, it really doesn't do a lot. Now, long term, does it have some effects? That's not saying that I want everyone to go out there and buy herbicide and start using it. I really am not a fan of that stuff, especially getting on the water table. But some people will just flat out say that Roundup and stuff like that just kills honeybees, and it's a lot more complicated than that. And we have to be careful. We do need to make progress. And the best way that we can do that, everybody, how we can make positive change, talk is kind of cheap. We do need to inform people. It needs to be accurate. But the main thing is money talks, and spending our money on local produce, healthier foods, foods that are sourced from places that aren't spraying all this junk is the best way that we can make change. Okay, so yeah, OT on the spot queen rearing. I get that one a lot. I've got to do more research in that hi-fi. Excuse me. I really have not read a whole lot about it, and I think there are some things. I think what everyone needs to do is, well, I say everyone. What everyone can do is make up a starter box, kind of like the 5 frame nuke videos that we have. That's really strong, ready to raise queens. Doesn't have a queen, no larvae. They can't do anything. It just gets you a frame of. You can have a foundationless frame specifically for this, and you can let the queen lay in it. Cut a little spot through there, and then you can just stick that down in there with the, and they can start raising queen cells off of all the larvae and stuff like that. But I don't know anything really about on the spot queen rearing. It probably works really good if it's used correctly. So, Chris Gambrel, can you talk about how you're going to feed syrup and patties to the 3 frame mating nukes? And basically, there's going to be a little shim up there to where they still can't get to one another, but there's enough space to get a little bit of patty up there. And I'm also going to be feeding through the lid. I'm going to be showing you all how to do that in a video. It's going to kind of be like a bucket inverted feeder, except these are probably going to be quart jars. Yeah, Kate Rector's like, maybe beekeepers should create a bee safe herbicide. And that's awesome. I mean, we do need controls for weeds for farmers. I totally understand as somebody who is raising stuff and has done farmers markets a lot. Weeds are a pain in the rear end. And I think there are natural products out there that we can create. The thing of it is, a lot of us are screaming, we don't want this. You know, this is bad. This is bad. But we need some people to actually take action and create something that's better. That's what we really need. It's not just that easy, but at the same time, we need people to actually take action instead of talking so much. And I could probably learn from that just a little bit. So PJK asks, how often are you visited by a bee inspector? I have to be inspected once a year. And then if I have any major disease problems, then they're going to come back out. But I have never had that issue, and that's what they inspect for. You know, it's not super intensive. They'll go to one of my big bee yards. You know, it's not that big, 50, 60, 70 hives, and they'll check 20% of everything. And they'll want to see some of the nukes that we're selling and check those as well. The main thing for us is we keep ourselves clean because, you know, if we start selling a bunch of junk to people, word gets around. It really does. Let's see here. So Chris was like, I did that audio book that you suggested and it's really working out for me. I'm really glad to hear that. The audio book that he's referring to, I'm just going to say real quick, is through Audible, and you can get a free trial through us. It tremendously supports our channel. You don't have to get a beekeeping book, but they have the Honeybee Democracy, which I liked, and you can listen to it. You get to keep the book indefinitely. If you like Audible, you can continue with them. But honestly, you can get the free trial. You can keep the book forever, that free download. They have like 10 different books on beekeeping on there. You can pick one. And you can get a book on Star Wars. You want to get the original Star Wars series. Don't get the new ones, though. They're not very good. If they're anything like the movies, anyways. Opinions are like noses, though. But yeah, you can go through the link. It's going to be in the description of this video and probably in the comments too. And it tremendously helps our channel out. We'll be putting all of that towards funding that experimental yard. Yeah, and hit the like button. That really helps us. Whenever we do a video, if you like it, hit the like button. It really helps. So someone asked about the best bee veil, and I've said this before. I'll say it really quick. There's a veil I get through Kelly's Bees, Walter T. Kelly. It is great. It's like the one that I use. It's a little bit designed differently as far as how it. They don't have this quite the same bracing, but the visibility is still exceptional, and you can get that through Kelly's Bees. If you call Walter T. Kelly in Kentucky and Clarkson, and you say that, hey, I want that same type of veil that Cayman wears, I'm not going to get anything off of that, but they will know what you're talking about because I talk to those girls all the time. Yeah, Keeper Owen, I don't know where Gus is. Okay, so Stan's asking about, I'm sorry, everybody, talking about comb honey production. I hardly have ever done any comb honey production. It's just mainly because it takes so much work for the bees to make comb honey production. Me personally, if you're a small beekeeper and you're just getting started, just get some starter strips. Here, let me grab this. So this right here is just sheets of foundation that you can get from any bee supply company. And ooh, it smells so good. I love the smell of beeswax. Everything in the hive smells good, except dead bees. Awful smell. All right, so this is just some wax foundation. This is actually for comb honey. It's extra thin, so when you take a bite through it, you don't feel like a really thick wax in the middle of it. But what I would do, me personally, I would make sure the hives are level, cut about an inch of a strip, then stick it into your frames, and you can even melt some beeswax and fasten it more with some melted beeswax, and just let them draw that down and use foundation list for the most part. And I think that that's the cheapest way. If you're wanting to pack a lot of it, then I'm really not the guy to talk to because I have hardly done any of that. Okay. Hey, Eric, I'm going to be trying to do some very, very nice single brood management videos. That is one of the videos that we are going to try the most this year. There's a lot of things we want to do, but the things that we are going to do is single brood management, more small scale queen rearing, more splitting videos, sustainability, mite control, keys, the 3 keys: great queens, dead mites, and good nutrition. How much more beneficial is it to coat plastic foundation with melted beeswax? If you have very thin wax on your plastic foundation or none, it makes a huge difference. If you're getting double or heavy or triple wax, whichever company you're getting it from, it probably doesn't need it. There's a lot of factors at play there. After a while, even if you've waxed it yourself, if it's been sitting out, it can dry out, and dry beeswax is not near as desirable for the bees to work. But it helps out a lot. And we've got a video on that. You can do a few hundred of them in an hour with just a couple cheap little tools you can get. You can get a cheap crock pot at Goodwill. What state is the best for beekeeping? Oh man, let the arguments ensue. It really depends on where you're at. Honestly, Tennessee isn't probably the best state for it. We just don't have the nectar flows and the pollen flows to be the best. And but I mean, it's still a good state. If you have healthy bees, you're going to do well. But Hawaii is a great state to produce tons of honey and tons of bees, tons of queens. The problem is everything's expensive. Building your own equipment, because the lumber has to be imported. Buying bee equipment has to be imported. Everything has to be imported. So you're going to have, you have higher production. But the problem is everybody and their brother can produce honey in Hawaii. It can get complicated there as well. So there are advantages and disadvantages wherever you go. You got to make the most of it. There are people who are very successful in Vermont, like Michael Palmer, Manitoba, like Ian Stepler. I'm trying to be successful here in Tennessee. It's a matter of having healthy bees. If you can have healthy bees, you can be sustainable and you can make money. Hey, Fallen Angel, thanks for coming on. Yeah, a lot of the commercial guys move their hives from state to state for pollination and also for pollen flows because, a lot of people think about honey, but beekeepers don't make a ton of money off of honey. I mean, they do, but they don't get really good prices. Honey prices are really low right now. They are concerned about good, diverse pollens. That keeps the hive very healthy. Let's see. Was looking at buying nukes from a local source, but was told they wouldn't be ready till May. Is that too late? It really just depends on where you're at, man. It really depends on the qualities of the nuke as well. It's not too late. I mean, I make splits after that. But you have to feed them more the later it is. It just really depends on your area. But first year colonies, you got to feed them more anyways, and it really just depends on a lot of factors. Just baby your bees and pay attention to what they need. What do you all get for a pound of honey? Oh, it really just depends. I mean, if we don't really sell in bulk. If I'm just selling to a store to resell, we're probably looking at about $5 a pound. And some people get a lot more than that. But the nice thing is, like today, I think I delivered 14 gallons worth of honey or more just here locally. And I drop it off. I grab the money. I leave. I don't have the time to deal with individual customers. I can't afford to do that. To me, it's profitable to lower my price down and to let somebody else make some money off of my honey, advertise it, deal with the customers' questions and all that kind of stuff. So, I feel like I can come back home, spend more time making money, taking care of my bees. So you have to figure out what's best for you. Keeper 01, we want to see Laurel. Man, Laurel, are you gonna? Oh yeah. Well, the moderators have been the moderators. There's been a lot of shenanigans going on today with them. We had several spammers on here. It's been very frustrating, but Laurel says she's just been over there like delete, 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 delete. And some people, I don't know what's all been going on. Some people feel they've been treated unfairly. Wow, life's not fair. Yeah, I mean, Laurel says we're getting crazy, but hey, so Laurel, we're gonna come on, Laurel, come on. Everyone wants to see you. Everyone's been waiting. How do you find your best prices on refined sugar? Okay, so it depends on where you live. Sourcing sugar is can be really difficult in my area. Until Man Lake purchased Kelly's, we were not able to get Pro Sweet at a cheap price, and the closest place for me to get cheap syrup was all the way in Memphis to get really cost effective. And by the time I calculate my drive time and fuel, I mean, goodness. Sugar, Dadants sell pretty reasonably priced sugar. If I remember correctly, if you have one of those close to you, I think Man Lake does too. It depends on the facility. Walmart is about the only thing around me. I mean, you got to check around. I do know some guys were getting some in Alabama, but it was bothering their bees because they found out later after the fact that it was confectioner sugar or powdered sugar and had a lot of cornstarch in it. Do you vacation and who minds the bees? No, we hardly ever vacation. I think we took one vacation last year for a little bit, and it was actually quite a struggle because it messes things up quite a bit. How much is the sugar? Well, I think at Wally World it was 38 cents or something that last time I looked, but it goes up and down quite a bit. And the Pro Sweet, I think, is right now in bulk 35 cents a pound. It's really not a big savings, but it doesn't spoil on us. And all right. Yeah, she's been over here the whole time, just dropping the band hander. She might look sweet and innocent, but let me tell you, when things get tough, she says to shut up. All right. So more bee questions. Yeah. I mean, so there's different places that you can get sugar at. You're going to have to be resourceful. Some people are okay with feeding high fructose corn syrup. Sometimes you can get a hold of some Coca-Cola facilities and stuff and get high fructose corn syrup 55, which is supposed to be the better one for bees. I don't really like the idea of doing that, but one of my buddies feeds it all the time and he has really good bees. So, we all have to make that decision ourselves. So is it time to swap boxes if your queen is in the top box and the bottom box is empty? If your weather isn't like getting insanely cold at night and the top box is packed full of bees, I would. I totally would. But if there's only like 6 frames, 7 frames of bees up there, I'm going to let them fill that box from side to side with bees before I'm going to rotate that. Now, what you can do if you feel like it's getting a little full is you can go down and pull an empty comb or two up and bring it and put it in there, make sure she doesn't run out of space. Excuse me. Let's see. Who do you trust for outside wax supply? Now, there's a guy on Bee Source. I've ordered from him in the past. His name's Honey Householder on beesource.com. And he produces good beeswax that I purchased back when we weren't melting some of ours. for plastic foundation, and it did a really good job. Let's see. Philly, thanks for coming on and supporting our channel. He's got a question. It was 60 degrees out the other day, and I tried to open feed a frame of honey next to the hives. They barely touched it. Why? 60 degrees out the other day, and I tried to open feed a frame of honey next to the hives. They barely touched it. Why? They might be bringing in some other nectar, but that is really interesting. Now, was the honey frame really cold? It seems like 60 degrees, they'd be touching it. I'm not 100% sure why, to be honest. Let's see. Maybe having it next to the hive actually made it a little bit hard for them to find it. I find that feeding stuff out, if you're going to do that, actually having a little ways from the hive works better too. But that is interesting. 60 degrees, you think they'd be hitting it, but maybe it was really cold in the combs. I don't know. Did it have a chance to warm up good? Yeah, Eva Britt said it right. Laurel's awesome. Very strong woman who, yeah, she makes everything go around here. I just talk, but she has so many brilliant ideas, and this channel wouldn't be around if it wasn't for her. And I do not sell wax at this point, Kate Rector. I'm probably going to be before too long. But I have a lot of local places I can sell it that are asking for it right now, and also we use a lot for waxing plastic foundation. I'm going to try to do some candles and more lip balms and stuff like that. So let's see. There was a question up here. Advice on starting a YouTube channel. Woo. We just started doing videos on what we were doing. I think the main thing is actually helping people out. And it helps if you're, not saying every other word. I do that way too often. But primarily it's just finding ways to help people or just showing people different ways. I know that there are other channels out there that do some things much better than we do, but we're getting better and we are just starting out. We're going to be doing a lot more stuff. And our main goal is, it doesn't matter if you have 1 hive or 1,000, we really want to be able to help you enjoy the world of beekeeping. And that doesn't matter if you're going to stick them in these polystyrenes, going to put a flow hive on top of that next year, or if you're keeping bees more like we are, which is more traditional wood boxes. Now, we do use plastic foundation, but I think the main thing is just trying to, and being honest helps. But then again, there's a lot of people on YouTube that aren't honest that are really good at marketing. So, hey, Ryan Earls Bees, thanks for coming on again. So, Bee Lord's asking, when do you know it's a good time for queen rearing? Me personally, I want to see some fairly consistent days that are 50 degrees or above, and that's 50 degrees Fahrenheit. I want the queens need to be able to fly. That is important. And you also need to make sure you have plenty of drones out for them. So you're going to want to see plenty of drones in your hives. Don't rush it. If you have to wait another week to 2 weeks to raise queens, it's better to be safe than sorry. But the queens have got to be able to fly. Even if you have the drones, they got to be able to get out there and hook up with those fellows. Thanks for coming on, John Hatch. What do you do with your wet supers after you've extracted them until it freezes so the wax moths don't destroy your frames? So primarily what we do is we stick them onto the hives where the bees can clean them up again. And that's legally what you have to do in Tennessee. In some states, you can open feed them and let the bees go in there and just clean all that out. Honestly, I don't really do anything after that. I just want to make sure they're dry. No bee bread in there, no honey, dry combs. You'll get a little bit of wax moth damage, but if you keep them, whether it's daylight that can get into them, like in a shed, you don't seal them up really good where it's dark. They do really good. Some people I know are putting them, are stacking them together, and they're putting some essential oils. And by the way, I have heard that it's legal again in the United States. They're going to be selling a BT product, which is a bacteria that you can spray onto those, and it's going to be able to protect your combs. I'm hoping to experiment with that because some people say it works great. Some people say not so much, but we basically just make sure they're dry. That's the most important factor. Do you have a worker that helps you? Well, I have a boss, and then I'm the worker. That's about it, though. I have a couple friends that come and help me from time to time, but nothing consistent. Hey, Matthew, KZ, where did you source your tank for wax dipping? I'm going to be releasing the video on all the details, links, either tomorrow morning, probably Saturday morning, because I got a really busy day tomorrow. But we're going to have that for you in the next 48 hours, all the details on that. Let's see here. So, hey, did anyone see, some of you guys might have seen the honey video where we were talking about granulated honey and whatnot. And here's some of the Chiave honey right here. I just kind of wanted to get a little bit of a better close-up. This stuff is really cool. And I know it's pretty expensive, but I don't know how well you can see that. But it is like just crystallized. And it's so fine, you can't even feel the crystals. Now, this one has the vanilla bean in it. Oh, my goodness, it is delicious. And David is a friend of mine, and I just put the link down in there. Just thought, some people like to see. Well, several people have actually ordered some of this stuff, and it's not like I get paid for it. There's a lot of stuff. I think some people think I'm getting paid for a lot of these things that I do. I just like to help people out. People that I see that are working hard, that are trying to do something, and that are providing a quality service. I'm not going to help some bum out who's, reselling honey or anything like that. But David does a really good job. And I thought, we'll just put the link down below. And several people have ordered some of his Hawaiian honey. And as a thank you, he's sending me some. So we actually are thinking about sending somebody in a giveaway upcoming one of these Chiave jars. And let me tell you, it is, up to this point, it is one of the coolest honeys I've ever seen. I really want to start collecting honey. Yeah, I really want to try to make some creamed honey too. Todd R, I'm a bum. That's what Laurel keeps calling me too. I don't know what she means by that. That and I keep hearing her mumble, that drone. So
Do not.
Lane workers, please discuss. Yeah, Hawaii honey is really cool. So Jason Young says, if I'm planning on having 7 colonies this year, would small scale queen rearing be reasonable? As long as you have the bees to do it, you can totally do it with 7 colonies. It's awesome. You can take one 5-frame nuke. If you watch our 5-frame nukes and making queens with them, we're going to have much better videos on that this year. Last year, we just kind of threw things together as we were finding time. I should have more time this year. And you can take one 5-frame nuke and you can raise 13, 15 high quality queen cells out of that just in one shot. And there you go. You can start making your own queens and helping make better quality hives in your bee yard and selecting from those that do great for you. Yeah. Keep row one. You got to be watching out for those quiet ones. So laying workers, please discuss. All right. This is a great one. Is this? Hey, get the sill off of that, William. Yeah, get the sill off of that. So laying workers. This is an important topic and one that's it's difficult. I really want to be able to save every hive that I can, but one thing that you will learn as time passes, and I had a hard time learning this, is there are some hives that are too far gone. You can purchase the world's greatest queen. You can raise your own queens. They will not accept them if they are too far gone. And by the time that you fix them, you've invested so much to try to save them. You could have just made a brand new split that didn't have any issues. Queen issues and requeening is complicated, but if there's one thing that I know is you can take a good mated queen, you can make a split with a lot of young bees, and it's super easy to requeen or get a queen in there. Colony starts taking off. Young bees are vital. Old bees really aren't worth a whole lot. They only have a week or two to live. They're hard to get queens to introduce into them. They want to tear down cells more. They supersede queens, even if it's a great queen. But if they're out of balance like that, they're like, okay, we got a queen. We'll let her lay a few eggs. Now we're still, we're out of balance. Something's not right. We're going to blame the queen for it. We kill that queen, start raising supersedure cells off her. And here we are in a problem again. With laying workers, they're so far gone at that point. I shake the bees out. I don't want drone brood all in those worker cells that is going to change the size of the cell from small to large and now ruin my combs. Shake the bees out. They can drift into other colonies or they can perish, but it's very, very difficult to fix a laying worker colony. And again, even if you did, you'd have to pull all kinds of resources from your good, healthy colonies on a high risk situation. Just focus, I think personally, making splits and create a healthy young colony. Works so much better. Queen introductions into problem colonies that are really far gone usually end up in a loss of a queen and a frustration and wasted brood and swiping bees from your champs to prop up your wimps. Thank you, Laurel. It'd be like Super Mario and go from little guy to big guy. What is it? Hey, Dansky. I was wondering if you're going to come on today. Oh, let me scroll back down. How long after the brood is hatched out will a laying worker situation usually start? So I don't know exactly on that. It is, I don't know. I'd start saying within a couple, 10 days, 14 days. There's probably different stages of it. And the thing of it is, there's many people that speculate that there are workers that actually lay when you have a good queen in the hive. The thing of it is, though, is they're not taking over anything. And that just bees are going around and eating those eggs because they can tell that they're drones in the wrong cell or in the wrong place or laid by a laying worker. Bees can pick up on this stuff and they will cannibalize those eggs. Hi, mother-in-law.
Hi, Mom.
I'm behaving, I promise. Behaving. If you don't,
No, you're not.
now I'm not behaving. If you don't know what that's from, you've missed out on a significant part of American culture. The Three Stooges. Oh my goodness. How many times have you seen a 2-queen hive? I actually, Travs, I have seen, I think I saw 5 or 6 last year. And some scientists are speculating that as many as 10% of hives have 2 queens at some part of the season. And those are the queens that usually are the ones that are just like insanely large. And I think in the past, before I knew that and started seeing a lot of those, because I was getting in my hives more and have a lot more hives to look through, it makes sense now that you've got these hives that just for whatever reason, you're just like, whoa, this hive's huge. How did it get so big so fast? But you got a mother-daughter laying system going in there, and it's fantastic. Let's see. Cayman, when will we get a sneak peek this year's nukes that will be up for sale? We should start having some videos on those sometime in April. We haven't started making those up or anything like that. But we're going to be showing you how we put together the Jester nuke boxes. When we'll be showing you, and we're not going to be showing you all the hundreds of splits, obviously, but we're going to show you how we're making some of them up and showing you probably some of the queen process as well. We'll try to get to as much as we can, but ultimately, there's only so many videos that we can do in a week, and it becomes more and more challenging as we get to this time of the year to keep up with tons of videos. So, but we will definitely be showing you stuff, that we're doing them. Hey, JNS85, thanks for coming on tonight. You're welcome for the videos. So someone's wanting the mandolin. I've had actually a couple of people. I don't know. I haven't played it since the last time we did a live chat. Yeah, Curly. Ooh, certainly. So, Vinco was talking about an old queen, and we had one this year that was in her 4th season. Now, she did expire this year. She was a very good queen, and there was 2 queens in that hive for a while. And what I ended up doing is actually pulling the daughter away, letting the mother keep laying. The reason I pulled the daughter away is because I was still grafting from the mother. And I didn't want to, it's hard when there's 2 queens in there, you can't tell which one's the larvae is coming from. So I pulled the daughter away from it, made a split hive, was exceptionally good and is looking good coming out of winter as well. And then the bees proceeded to raise another supersedure cell. And then there was 2 queens in that same hive again. So and then eventually they killed her, and then that other queen took over. but she was in her 4th season, and that's just a wonderful characteristic. So, we got hundreds and hundreds of queens off of her. Let's see. Yeah, I guess so. I'm gonna bring the mandolin out for just 1 second and try that out for just a minute. Urban Wildman, do you paint your Paradise bee boxes? And by the way, when someone asked earlier, and I forgot to mention, this particular box came from Blue Sky Bee Supply, and they do need to be painted. They are not UV resistant at all, and that sun will wear them out. So we've totally got to paint this box. I'll be doing that before too long. The kids are going to help me. They love painting. It'll probably look really funny. Let's see. Is there any real reason to use 1-to-1 syrup, as 2-to-1 is more nutrient rich and won't spoil like 1-to-1 will? There's still a lot of speculation on that. Some people say 1-to-1 is a little bit more stimulating. I feed Pro Sweet, which is thicker than 2-to-1 by a good margin. And I like it because it doesn't spoil as much, kind of like you said, hi-fi with the 2-to-1. Personally, I hate spoilage, and I think if there's any difference, it's pretty minimal. So me personally, I'm going to do whatever is best for me, the beekeeper, because I don't think there's really an impact on bee health feeding 1-to-1 over 2-to-1 at all. That's just me personally. Let's see. Is this thing even in tune? So Megan and James Gross are asking, do you still have bees for sale? We might have like 1 or 2 nukes for sale. I was just telling Laura we need to shut it down. It just, you turned it off. We've had some people that have not paid for their nukes yet, and we're going to be giving them like just a week or so to pay up on the deposit, that is. And if they don't, because we get people that flake out, and if you're not serious, then we should have a handful more, and I'll be releasing that in a video. I really like pine needles for smoker fuel, but man, there's a lot of different things that'll work. What? You don't think I should do the... Oh, yeah, I think there's rights. I'm not sure if you're allowed to play the Andy Griffith Show on YouTube. I mean, they might shut us down for that. Oh, well.
Play your own music.
I guess I have to play my own stuff. Or we'll play some bluegrass songs because bluegrass songs are so old, nobody wants to claim them. Did I just say that? In the pines where the sun never shines, and we shiver when the cold winds blow. Okay, I'll stop with the old bluegrass. It's, but back, 120 years ago, that was in style, man. You heard a man sing like that playing mandolin, and the girls went crazy. Not anymore. So someone asked about hop guard again. I really don't think hop guard is a great control. This is just based off of very little experience, of personal experience. But I just notice a lot of pros, and I'm not just saying pros, but some guys that I really respect that you just have 15 hives, 20 hives, 50 hives that are very good at keeping their bees alive, producing honey crops every year. None of those guys use it. I don't hardly know anyone that uses hop guard because I think everyone's tried it a little bit and it doesn't work good enough. So what size splits do you recommend to increase our numbers? We're at 15 now. I mean, honestly, if you can get a small split off of each one, that's fantastic. Don't expect 100% to survive, and we never do with our splits. But the ones that don't work out, you can combine back with either the original colony or combine back to the other splits. Also what equipment you have and what you want. So if you're wanting insurance and that's it, and just to maintain 15, probably having 15 large colonies and having 5 extras is great. If you take care of them, you'll probably end up with extras at the end of the year, and you're going to have to either sell some nukes or decide to get more bee equipment and all that kind of stuff. A man of constant sorrow. I think that one's also, I think that's also still owned by somebody. So if I sing that one, the copyrights people will kill me. Theresa said, you weren't supposed to pay them in full. I misspoke initially. Just the deposit at this point. And, that's plenty good. We just have some people that, they say they want something, they put down their order, they never put a deposit. We can't ever get a hold of them. And, we just don't have time to wait till April for them to decide what they're going to do or if they're going to do anything. And so they will be gone, and then we'll open up to sell the rest of them. Let's see, what can I play? All right, so I am really rusty, and you got to really like get your hands in shape for this. Like my calluses, I don't know if you can see that on the end of my fingertips. I have no calluses. It cuts into my fingers, and also it takes a while to kind of get them loosened up and stuff. Oh, sounds like we have, Banhammer. Laurel just dropped it. Oh no. The thing of it is, he's lucky that he doesn't get a meter in person. Oh, girl. Oh. Well, it doesn't matter. Girl, boy. Laurel does not discriminate. She'll ban you hard, just like everyone else. And, she's actually got like a 10-pound hammer for foraging stuff. How far from a known feral colony would you place a swarm trap, and how many? Thanks. I would probably place that, good at least half mile away. Honestly, I think it would be better to be closer to 3/4 to a mile away. I never have seen good results catching swarms with a swarm trap in my own personal yard. Like say I have, bees swarm in my yard. I've never seen any of them go into one of my swarm traps. If I have one go into one of my swarm traps in my yard, it's because it's come from somewhere outside. Let's see. Can I reuse drawn frames from a hive that may have had nosema? Would freezing them kill any spores? I don't know 100% on that. I have no idea. To be honest. So when to start liquid feeding? Whenever the bees will take it, honestly. I mean, if the bees need it and they will take it, just start putting it in. Yeah, I really, I've had, as far as the feeding goes, I mean, if they have plenty, don't feed it to them. A lot of people get on to me. I get this a lot because you're recommending feed. Don't you know that that's bad, Cayman? Well, the problem is I have so many people that buy my nukes. I had one just last year. I'm like, hey man, feed your bees. They're young. I know our flows here. They need to be fed. They'll draw more comb. They'll do better their first year. Give them some sugar syrup. Well, he came back. Well, he ordered again this year, and he sent me a message like, hey man, I didn't listen to your advice. I didn't feed them. And the bees perished very shortly afterwards. But they lasted through spring because they can get the natural nectar. But once spring shuts down in June, then they weren't going forward. They were going backwards. And I just know of so many instances. But then on the other side, I had a fellow. I think I might have said this on here before. I told him it's during our peak season when you pick up these nukes. So don't be feeding them a lot. Maybe feed them a quart a week at most and see how they're doing. You don't want to see honey or nectar in between brood. If you're looking at a frame of brood and you're seeing spots of nectar or honey in between the cells, they need space. They either need combs up above, or you're feeding too heavily, whatever. And the guy's like, hey, your queens aren't laying, man. You gave me 2 nukes with no queens in there. And I probably shouldn't have even taken the time. I definitely don't have the time for this, but he was really close and local. And I went over there because he's only about 6 miles away. He had put 2.5 gallons of feed on a 5-frame nuke immediately after he got them. That's like 24, was it? That's like 20 something pounds of feed for a 5-frame nuke size colony. Plus, we're in the middle of our honey flow during this time. So the bees backfilled, queens couldn't lay. One of them swarmed, and the other one still had the marked queen in there, but she had no room to go with anything. Yeah, and young hives, Brent's right. Young hives don't always have enough field workers to sustain the colony. I mean, even if you have the world's greatest flow, if they don't have the bees and the foragers to take opportunity of it, it's all for naught. And that's why you can have big colonies that go into fall, come out of fall, going into winter, and they have tons of honey up above. They're ready to rock and roll. And then you'll have colonies that went through the same flow, same bee yard, and they're living from hand to mouth. And that's why as beekeepers, we've got to be able to identify this. We got to go in there and we got to address it. Timing is everything. Nature is not always fair. Stan says, "Do you prime queen cups before grafting?" And no, I typically don't. I typically dry graft. But in one of my videos, I show how you can collect royal jelly, and that does work very well. And I think that is a great thing. But I get great results with dry grafting. If the colony is ready for them, ready to receive them, you stick them in there. And I mean, they start feeding them almost immediately, and they do a very good job. Yeah, Willie King's like, you should play your own intro and exit music. See, we don't really have the computer technology. I'm using such a simple system right now. We don't really have good editing or anything like that. But I'm hoping at some point we're going to be able to afford to get a computer that's going to be able to edit stuff and just make our videos a little bit more professional. But ultimately, I'm not going to put a long intro and outro or anything like that because I hate it when they have that because I really want to get to the meat and potatoes of the conversation. So probably, like a 6-second little dealio and that'd be it. Enjoy your channel. Do you use drone comb and when do you put them into the hive? So I really like the idea of being able to do drone comb removal for Varroa control. I don't find the time for it right now. I think especially, and that's one of the advantages that hobby beekeepers have over people that have tons of hives, is that you can micromanage the individual colonies better than we can at hundreds of hives. And there are people that do it with large numbers as well. But we all have to decide what works best for us. And but you can do that. I really don't put drone combs into colonies unless I'm trying to specifically raise drones for queen mating, queen rearing, and all that stuff. What is a good place to source a tank for wax dipping? So in the video that I'll be releasing in the next day or two, I'll cover that. I don't know any bee supply companies that actually produce wax dipping tanks. The one that I have was originally a chicken scalder, and we retrofitted it over. It was very, very easy to do. I will be giving the link in that video, but you can find it at Featherman Equipment maybe.com. Featherman, just put Featherman chicken scalder. You can look at the tank. If you do email or call them though, just let David know that I'm the one that sent you. I don't get paid for it or anything like that, but I think it would tickle me to know that I'm helping him out. I played bluegrass with him in the past just a little bit, and it's just fun for me to be able to see that maybe that we're helping send business to some just small farm family businesses, stuff like that. I've read that doing 2 drone frame removals a month will knock the Varroa down for a year. Ethan Jones, it very well might. The problem is our bees during dearth season really don't want to raise drones, and so it doesn't work during low parts of nutrition times of the year. And that's one of those things, especially with Varroa. I don't like to experiment a ton, just as far as like guessing. Like, okay, we're going to try this out this year because usually that happens. What happens is I lose bees that year, or the bees are weaker going into winter. If I'm going to do experiments, I want to control it. I want to see the alcohol washes after those things and make sure that it's actually working. And that's where I hope this YouTube channel gets to the point where I can spend more time on experimenting and maybe take a little bit less time from the beekeeping side. I love beekeeping, but honestly, this kind of stuff is a little bit more fun because it feels kind of like I'm almost a hobby beekeeper again, where I get to experiment a little bit more and learn things a little bit more than just sticking with the same tried and true stuff. And the YouTube channel is bringing that opportunity. I hope through that we all, me included, learn more about different Varroa controls or maybe even better resistant bees. Todd R, do you run one deep and one medium boxes on your hives? I'm actually going to be using some of my mediums this year, but typically we just run deeps. So a single deep, and then we'll have an excluder, and then we'll put 3 or 4 deep boxes of comb on top of that. Yeah, cathedral hives are really beautiful. Is mandolin easier than guitar? I don't think so, but it's not that much harder either. I think the only reason guitar I would say would be easier is just for the fact that there are better books out there on it, better information. It's kind of like beekeeping. This is one of the things I really strongly feel about beekeeping is the fact that you can go and study about cows. There's all kinds of research. There's all kinds of research about chickens. People are familiar with those things. It's easier to get fundamentally good information. Beekeeping, we've got a lot of bad information out there. We also just don't have a lot of research, just but prior to all the CCD scare and whatnot, and the bees are all dying, there really wasn't a whole lot of articles and scientific research being put into. And I feel like beekeeping's, way behind a lot of different things. And I mean, nature, is different every year and what it provides for the beekeeper. But there are certain things that we can control. It's just like we were talking drone comb removal a little bit ago. We need to know more about that kind of stuff. We need to know more about our pests. We need more information that's going to be useful and translate to helping everyone. Yeah, the frets being smaller make it a little bit harder. It does on the mandolin. And but see, I have really like fat fingers. My palm is actually a little bit longer, I think, than my longest finger. I have very short fingers, and it makes it's just one of those things. I can't do anything about it. It's like I'm 5'6". I mean, there are special people that are able to still play basketball really good, but typically, if you're 5'6" and you can't jump, you're not going to do well in basketball. And with mandolin, that was always one of my handicaps. Is these other guys that had fingers that between both sides were covering 2 or 3 more frets than I could were always able to play up to speeds that I could not manage. I still think I can do very well, but it just everyone has advantages and disadvantages. Now those guys were usually skinny, and I'm built more for beekeeping and farm labor. So Laurel, she just says, "Giddy up and get to work," and all that kind of stuff. And we all have our gifts. Sausage fingers. That's pretty much it, Brent. I got them from my dad. Bluegrass is the heavy metal of country. Try a dulcimer. I actually can play a little bit of dulcimer. It's a lot of fun. And see, here's the thing. This is just like beekeeping. So the dulcimer is considered a very limited instrument. One, because it's just not very commonly messed with and stuff like that. But also, it's a very basically designed instrument. Old-fashioned Appalachian stuff. Well, there's this girl. I can't remember. I wish I had it. She showed up to this place. I thought I'd seen everything, and she was playing the dulcimer like at an insane level. She is like the rock star of dulcimer players. And I'm not talking hammer dulcimer. I'm talking about the lap dulcimer, the Appalachian dulcimer, mountain dulcimer. And she was just wearing it out, and I just was blown away. So just because somebody says that you can't do something doesn't mean that it can't be done. You just have to be careful when somebody is showing off really cool stuff on YouTube, because that is one thing that we can do on YouTube is we can take 10 outtakes and then only use the one that looks really nice. That's why we kind of try to show some of the bad stuff that happens as well. Try to keep our channel a little bit more realistic. PJK, when will you write a beekeeping book? Whenever I actually have enough time to sit down for more than 2 hours and not feel like I should be doing something else. We're pretty stressed right now, to be honest. And I'm not saying that to anyone to feel sorry for us, but I'm just being honest. We truly do not have a moment to relax right now. We just don't. We're undertaking a lot, and it's necessary to make the transition from working the job to going full time. But I hope at one point to be able to write a fundamental beekeeping book with a lot of pictures and different things, and hopefully it'll be helpful to some people. But that very well could be years down the road. Wow, another OTS queen rearing. I've got to research this on the spot queen rearing method because I get this question a lot. I don't know a whole lot about it. And me personally, I know grafting works very well. It's pretty much considered the Doolittle method, and it works exceptionally well. I can do it with a 5-frame nuke, or I can make a lot more with a bigger colony. But as far as on the spot queen rearing, I have really no experience, and I don't want to talk about it because I'll probably just make myself look like a fool. It's very easy to do. Isn't that right, Laurel? Uh-huh. Thanks for that laughter of encouragement. Yeah, well, yeah, Laurel's like, I will neither confirm nor deny. Wonderful supporting cast I've got over here. I'm just feeling the love. Yeah. OTS is like Doolittle 2.0. Yeah, I'll have to look into it. I've got my doubts, but then again, I've been wrong before. I used to say I wasn't going to use queen excluders, and all that kind of stuff. It makes me think though, if it's so awesome, why are the guys like my buddy in Hawaii who are producing thousands of cells a month not using it? I don't know. That's why I need to look into it. I understand thymol dissolved in high-grade alcohol when added prevents sugar syrup spoilage. Do you know if it increases robbing probability when feeding? I don't know. Randy Oliver might have been where you got it from. Talks about that. I have no personal experience with that. Hey, Ewa Britt, if I ever do make a book, I will totally send you one. So, Todd R., what topics are you talking about on Saturday? So, I want to be primarily talking about um, some of what we discuss in our videos, but getting into more depth, getting into a more, since it's an hour long and it's one topic on each class, I'll be talking a lot about nutrition, talking about how we control Varroa, different options out there. I mean, you guys are getting a good bit of it in here on the live chat too. To be honest, it's just crazy how the world has changed because here we are. Some of us are literally halfway around the world, and we are asking and talking about different things bee related, and it is awesome. I'm learning a lot from this stuff. I'm learning a ton about different places. So primarily nutrition. Nutrition is one of the most underrated things talked about, period, and especially in this area. People think here in Tennessee, we produce pollen. There's pollen all over the place. My allergies are flaring up. The bees should be doing fine. But that is not the case, especially on years like this one where we had 2 months and a couple weeks without any rain. Let's see. Randy Oliver only has like 5 videos. Am I looking for the wrong person? Okay, so Travs, he has a huge website. It's with tons of information, scientificbeekeeping.com. Most of his information is really good. And, I really think a lot of his stuff. There's a couple things I find that didn't really work super well for me. But overall, Randy Oliver, some people get really onto Randy just because I guess he doesn't fit their ideals, but he's been very helpful. And sometimes just seeing what other beekeepers are doing. I mean, he has 1,000 odd hives. I mean, you cannot be a complete idiot and sustain that many colonies. You got to know some stuff. Bees are not that easy to keep, where you can just keep 1,000 hives and just park them and then do dumb things and then make a living off of that. So even if you don't agree with these kind of people 100%, there's still a lot of meat to pick off the bones. Just spit out the gristle and move on. Hey, Barry Carlton, thanks for coming on tonight. We're going to try to do another one of these live chats here in about 2 or 3 weeks if we can. Try to get some good questions and stuff dealt with prior to everyone getting their bees or coming out of winter with their bees. What is your elevation in Tennessee? Oh, goodness gracious. My dad would be ashamed. I can't remember. We're up on top of the hill. We're not quite, Tennessee Smoky Mountains high, but I think the Smokies, Laurel, how high did the Smokies get? About 6,000 feet? Smokies, 6,000 feet, like the highest point? Maybe not even that high. Our mountains aren't very tall. We're somewhere much lower than that. So I don't know. Okay, well, that doesn't really help me. So Springtown, Texas, Minnesota. We got people all over the place here. So came in feral colony and 10 frame old hive. Inside will be a mess. Any advice, please? Oh man. So basically, I hate doing cutouts. I hate it so much. I used to do those and they're just so much work. I see, these guys on YouTube, like Dirt Rooster and some of these other guys. I haven't really watched a lot of their videos. I really probably should, but I just hate doing it. I love bees, but I hate cutting them out of buildings. I hate cutting them out of boxes that don't have any frames. But really, the only thing I can think of is to take your time, use some smoke, wear a bee suit, have some rubber bands ready, and some frames, and just wrap them up there and try to salvage what you can. But it can, it's a pain, and it's stressful on the bees. It's stressful on the beekeepers too. Let's see. Elevation 574 feet above sea level. I'm a neighbor. Uh-oh. We've got a neighbor watching our videos. We better not be careful what we say about our neighbors. Now, thanks for coming on tonight. I love this area. Hey, Cayman, what are your thoughts on heat treatment for mites? So I think it's interesting. I think we need to learn more about it. I've actually got a thermal treatment. We're going to try to do some good videos on that this year. I'm really not promising anything as of this point onward. We're just going to try to stick with what we've already promised and do what we've already been doing, because um, I'm going to be so swamped this year. I've already promised so much, but we do have a mighty mite killer in the basement, and we are going to be trying some thermal thermal treatments, and hopefully seeing that works good for us. I don't know 100% how well it works or not. I do know it's very laborious, and that doesn't mean it doesn't work good, but that means it's going to deter a lot of beekeepers like myself from using it, because we just don't have a lot of time to spend on something like that. Best syrup additive to prevent syrup spoilage. We're probably, yeah, I don't know what the best one is. Some people put vinegar in there. Some people actually put bleach in there. Some people put essential oils in there, which kind of helps slow the fermentation process or spoilage process. The problem with any of those things, even with bleach, I find the bees rob that stuff a little bit more. The more smell it has, the more aggressively they rob. That's why I like the Pro Sweet. It doesn't have very much smell, but also when it's thick like that, it doesn't stimulate them, it seems, as much to rob as much as thin one-to-one does. But some people use the excuse me, the doggone. I've heard this a million times. Honeybee healthy and stuff like that, and that can work. But honestly, I just try not to make too much at a time. Yeah, I haven't explored the OTS method at all. I really don't know enough. I know enough to be dangerous. Are you totally over bee stings? Do they still bother you? Worst bee sting incident. Ooh, this is a great story. One of my favorites. So it was a dark and stormy night. What are you laughing about? It's a great story. So, anyways, I'm playing bluegrass. Boy, that was a little sour. Anyways, so we were at a festival, and there is this big bank. It's like a 3-story bank, very old, in Granville, Tennessee. Gorgeous festival they have there. Blacksmithing, bluegrass, old remodeled general stores right on the river, and the all that water down in there in the lake and everything. It's awesome. Anyways, there's swarms that have been up there, and some people say they've been up there for 30 years straight. I don't believe that. Bees die a lot. New swarms find that attractive, like a swarm trap, go up in there. But it was that time of the year where swarming is heavy, and there was just a lot of activity. And I was kind of pretending like I knew stuff, like I do around Laurel a lot. I'm like, that's fixing to swarm out. I bet it'll do it today. Sure enough, we play our first set on stage. We come off, and the bees are swarming. I mean, there's like a 4 or 5 pounds worth of bees flying around in a ball about 15 feet over everybody's heads. And you know what? Nobody noticed. It was the craziest thing. I was thinking we're going to have widespread panic. People are just running in all directions. Nobody even noticed. I couldn't believe it. And I'm running around trying to find a box and poke some holes in it. I finally go and start acting like an idiot, and just like, hey, do you got a box? Do you got a box? And they're like, what do you need it for? I'm going to go get some honeybees, which confirmed to everyone who knew me that played bluegrass that I wasn't sane. Anyways, to make a long story short, I shake those bees into the box, poke some little holes in it. But I think since they were still close to their hive, they had a lot of forager bees. And usually with swarms, I didn't have my bee suit or anything. Usually swarms are very docile. Even Africanized swarms can be very docile when they don't have any comb or brood to protect. I got stung like 18 or 20 times in a like 10-second period. They wore me out. I still got those bees though. And I was very immune to stings at that point. And it, you know, I had to take some Benadryl and kind of stuff like that, but I got over it and I played the next set. I did get stung on my fingers twice, and they were kind of just a little tight, not real swollen, but still tight. Made it a little bit hard, but I got those bees, and it worked out in the end. But I took a lot of stings, and I was feeling a little lightheaded there for a second. But these days, I get stung. I would rather have a bee sting than a mosquito bite. The initial sting hurts, but I don't itch, I don't swell, anything like that. We have a lot of people spamming us tonight. I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry, everybody. We're going to try to do some more stuff about that in the future to prevent this. We haven't really had a problem with this before. And, definitely not to this level. And I'm sorry that anyone that's, you know, uh, been wrongfully, blocked or banned or anything like that. We're still trying to figure out what's going on, but, and still trying to talk bees. Do you time your spring splits with the temperature? What are the ranges, highs and lows? No, I really just time my splits around when I can raise queens, and as soon as I can raise queens, it's time to split, basically. And I want, usually around here, that's around April, usually around the 1st of April, sometimes a little bit into March. If you purchased mated queens, I you can totally make us. I could be making splits right now with some of my biggest colonies. All that matters is good bee coverage. If I took a frame of brood from my biggest champs, and I've got 40 in a yard, and they're all 10 frames or stronger, and some of them are a lot stronger than that. Pull one frame of brood, shake, take another frame, shake that in there. That's one plus a frame of brood adhering bees, one shake, and then I can pull that from other colonies, stick a mated queen from Hawaii, plop that in there, give them a little bit of feed, they'll be fine. It doesn't matter if it's getting down into the 20s. As long as they have food and a decent bit of bee cluster, they're going to keep that warm. There's a lot of variables.
You need a shirt that says that.
What? Yeah, I do need a shirt that says there's a lot of variables. Let's see. Yeah, Laurel is dropping the hammer. Yeah, she's trying to keep up. Let's see. I won't make splits without pollen and a flow going on, but that's just me. Yeah, I mean, and that's when we're splitting at that time of the year. I mean, we're already getting pollen. As long as the weather is decent, our bees are bringing in pollen this time of the year. And so, we're throwing pollen paddies on there as well to smooth that out, because if we get a week of rain or something like that or cold weather, that still helps them keep going. Highest elevation in Tennessee is 6,643 feet above sea level. Thanks. Well, I call her Sheila, call her mom. It's Laurel's mama, but she's pretty much my mama. She takes care of me all the time. She's the one that taught Laurel how to do a lot of her cooking. So, I mean, thank God every day for that. My waistline one of these days is going to catch up with me, though. And you never know, I might be the short fat bee man or something like that if those biscuits keep coming. Let's see. What level of aggressiveness prompts you to requeen? So the aggressiveness as far as the behavior of the bees, there's sometimes that there's a good excuse for the bees to come after you. Like if there's a dearth period coming on, they're more testy, or like if it's especially right after the honey flow, if there's a dearth that hits, the colonies are super strong, huge population, you're pulling honey, you're moving colonies. If you're moving bees, pulling honey, those things disrupt them a lot. If you're just doing little inspections, it's not near a big of a deal. I don't like bees that are just coming after me for no good reason, though. And they definitely shouldn't be aggressive when they're a small colony. And I consider small colonies below a double deep. If it's two deeps or larger, they're going to be a little bit more aggressive than when they're a little smaller. But basically, I don't want stuff that's just going to head hunt me around the bee yard and just start chasing me around. It's just I just won't put up with it. Some colonies you just get in there and they just wear you out, and for no good reason. So it really just depends. Do you know of any Northern Cathedral colony keepers? I don't myself. I really don't. I don't even know any Southern ones, to be honest. Let's see. Um, you know, we were wanting to do walk away splits videos better this year. We just ran out of time. There's a couple, I think there's 2 or 3 different videos that we just weren't able to get it done in a timely fashion. We're going to try to do better about that. The thing with walkaway splits is I don't like investing a ton of bees. Say you have a strong double deep. I don't like the idea of taking a double deep and breaking it down right in half. Taking half your population over here, letting them requeen themselves, let the other one do its thing. I think it would be better to make a small, good walkaway split with, probably about 3 frames of coverage, 2 frames, one with young eggs on it, one with plenty of food, and then maybe one with some partial bit of food. But yeah, got to have good bee coverage, and that way the colony with the queen gets most of it. I know some people don't want to look for the queen, but there are ways that you can go about that, like using an excluder to separate where the queen is. You don't have to find her, but she's in the bottom box. You can have some stuff in the top box, and then that little colony, if they raise their own queen and they're successful, even though it's little, you can pull frames now from your big colony and stick them over there. But if they're not, they're going to go lane worker if you don't do something about it. And so then you can just combine them back. That's just my opinion. There's a lot of different opinions out there. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, the main thing is there's a difference in levels of what people are willing to put up with. I know some guys that have Africanized bees that are willing to put on the bee suit, and they say they seem to like them. So that's the cool thing about beekeeping. You can stick them in a polystyrene hive. You can have more aggressive bees, gentle bees, and the more you get into raising your own queens, the more you can get the desired outcome of whatever you're wanting. The bees are very diverse, and it's beekeeping's awesome. But you've got to choose whatever you want. Some people they just want their bees to survive and just get a little bit of honey for themselves. It's going to be very different from someone who's wanting to produce and sell pollen. I know some guys who are doing a lot of that in places closer to the big cities, and they get a lot of money for their pollen. So they want bees that are actually bred for aggressive pollen gathering traits. So there's a lot of different things out there. My beekeeping career goal, it keeps changing, BJK. At one time I really thought I was going to go up into 1,000 or more beehives, and I'm not saying that I won't. I mean, who knows? But honestly, my main goal is to be a good father and a good husband, and to be able to get this business to where we are able to not be, working on average 90-hour weeks. And that's just me by myself. And then Laurel puts in a lot of time with the kids. I'm homeschooling my kids. I want to be able to be in a financial state where I don't have to be a millionaire. I mean, that would be great. But honestly, just to have, stay out of debt, probably somewhere around 400 hives. But now this YouTube chain has changed everything. And I was never expecting anything like this to happen. And so, that's the reason why a lot of these big professionals, Ian Stepler is definitely um, different, than a lot of the guys that are that large. He's willing to put his information out there. It takes a lot more time than you would think to do these YouTube videos, especially when you make a lot of mistakes like what I do, and we don't have good editing software. And so you find that most of your videos come from beekeepers who are smaller, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But at the same time, I'm finding that the education side is very enjoyable. And if it proves to be profitable enough, then we will focus more on research, experimentation, helping new beekeepers become successful, sustainable beekeepers. And that doesn't mean that we'll have all the answers and we'll be doing the exact methods that everybody loves and wants to do. But I feel like we have information that can help those people have success and then go from there on what type of beekeeping they want to do. So I don't know yet. I mean, we very well at some point get to 1,000. Laurel and I are talking about actually gearing down to more around 200 production hives this year, and instead of going larger because we really stressed ourselves out last year, and I wasn't spending enough time with the kids. I wasn't taking enough time off. So, anyways, that's just me personally. My, it doesn't. I know some commercial guys that if you have 2,000 hives, they don't consider you commercial because they have 15,000. So no matter what size you are, there are always going to be people that are bigger than you, that are smarter than you, or in at least one area. So I just want to do the best that I can for what I'm given and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, and when I started out, I was listening to a lot of bad information. I struggled. Laura and I both, we were keeping bees separately before we got married. And we've struggled to keep our bees alive from year to year and produce honey and have success. And a lot of it was because we were listening to information that was very poor. Don't feed your bees, don't treat your mites, don't don't paint your beehives because this guru on the internet is famous and he says you shouldn't. Boy, they rotted so quick here in Tennessee with all that wonderful mud and rain we get. A lot of different things, but we didn't know anything about beekeeping when we got into it. That was 17 years ago for me. But man, I made so many mistakes. And if we can just help speed that up for you guys by a couple years, then I will be happy. Let's see. How many bees do you feel will max out a bee yard without constantly be feeding them? Oh man, that's really hard. It really depends on your area. I mean, here, I mean, it's better to have 10 hives in one location than 40, but then you can't. I mean, I can't have 400 hives and then have 40 bee yards of 10. There's just no way I could do that. So there's a balance there. Leaving plenty of honey on them. A lot depends on the year. I mean, there's some years I don't hardly have to feed at all. Two falls ago, I guess it would be not last fall or the fall before, but the fall before that, I hardly had to feed anything. And this fall I fed more than I've ever fed before. A lot depends on the season. It depends on your area. Hey Yasmin, you are too generous. I thank you so much, and thanks for just coming on. And I know it's super super early over there. I think it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. Thanks so much, and I hope that we're helping you guys out. And definitely keep us posted on your progress. And I want to see the kind of honey that you're producing too. Whenever you get a chance this year, if you produce some honey, send me a picture. Thanks, B Lord, and everybody. I'm gonna pick a tune really quick. I've had some people ask me, and I've been kind of messing around with it. It won't be very good. Yeah, a lot. Like Brent said, I mean, it just really depends on your area. I got some buddies, and they're surrounded by corn and soybeans, and corn doesn't produce good pollen, and some soybeans don't even produce any nectar or pollen. So it really just depends on your area. One of my friends lives in around rice paddies in California. 4:38 a.m. You are amazing. That is super early. Let's see. Let's play an Irish tune. Oh my goodness. That's where it's at. Still out of tune. All right, that's enough of that. Anyway, so that's just a little old Irish tune called Congress Reel. And it was one of the first tunes I ever learned. And when I learned that song, man, I really thought that I was something. And it took me a long time. Bluegrass is kind of like beekeeping in some ways. It takes work and it just takes a lot of work and research and trial and error. And the beginning steps of learning an instrument is very humiliating. You sound terrible. It doesn't matter how good your instrument is. You it's very humbling learning to play an instrument, and you have to deal with your siblings like, oh, that sounded bad. You worked 2 hours on it, you know. Thanks everybody, Rafter DS and Abe Kenny for coming back on again, and thanks so much for listening. I mean, it's very humbling. I hope we've been able to help you guys out and everything. Um, and just thanks so much. Um, I like learning to whistle loudly. What? Oh, what did Insky say? I missed it. Hey, Cayman, tell us about Laurel's dowry again. Laurel, can I tell everyone about that? So, can I say it in my southern voice? That sounds more like Texas. That's terrible, isn't it?
Terrible.
It's terrible. I can't do accents at all. So, anyways, Laurel. So okay, this is actually a great story, and maybe it isn't about beekeeping, but this is a great story. So Laurel, um, you know, we like outdoorsy things and all that kind of stuff. And so she's the total opposite of me. If she doesn't know you, she is extremely shy. And me, I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm doing. Hey, what do you think about this? And all that stuff. And she's over there like, mm-hmm, and that kind of stuff. And she'll giggle at you. So at least she'll giggle at you so you know if you're on the right track or not. And but anyway, she liked that I talked, and I guess I was a bit of a goofball and all that kind of stuff. And one of the first times I met her, we were helping put a church together in a poor community, and so I got to see her work firsthand, doing construction and using saws and doing electrical and all kinds of stuff like that. And when you can see a woman that's working like that, you're like, well, that's intimidating, and I'm gonna have to step up my game a little bit. Well, then a few times after that, I went to her house and she knew I was going to be there, and she laid out this whole southern spread. Now, not everything's the best in the South, but when it comes to eating, it's hard to beat the South. I mean, they will stuff you until you explode with good food. And there was venison, homemade fried chicken. There was all kinds of mashed potatoes with heaps of butter, apple pie, all kinds of different things. And after I ate that and saw her work and do all that stuff, I was thinking, holy smokes, I have found the perfect woman. And she likes bees too. I mean, what more can you ask for? And so, anyways, her dowry, just stuff that she came with, she, well, I mean, we had to work out a deal. I tried to get as good of a bargain as I can. But no, in all seriousness, she had a really nice Jeep, a 3030, a really nice Maresian horse, couple saddles, beekeeping equipment. She came with beehives. One of her hives had like 100, like almost 20 pounds of honey on it. And of course, was better than anything I had produced at that point. And it took me years to beat that record so I could stop getting her to like, I produce more honey than you do, and all that kind of stuff. She came with a lot of cool stuff. So yeah, I mean, she came with a lot of cool stuff. But then the problem is when you marry someone like Laurel, she's quiet but competitive, and she has shown me up so many times, whether it's putting the roof on our house, whether it's fixing the water heater, whether it's installing the refrigerator and the freezing element and all that kind of stuff. Not freezing element, it's getting the freezer to work and putting the water to it and all that kind of stuff. Quit laughing so hard. I have to say a lot of stuff. I'll make a mistake every now and then. And she's able to do all this stuff. So my buddies are constantly like, man, she must have just felt sorry for you or something like that. And I said, you can look at this multiple ways. You can look at this like I'm a wimp and my wife is so much more capable than me in so many different ways. Or you can look at this like I am an incredible stud of a man to land a woman like that. None of them ever go for that side. They just go for the lucky or she felt sorry for me. Regardless, I'll take it. What was that? Laurel is more than just a beekeeper. She's a caiman keeper. That is very true. I'm very scatterbrained, and Laurel helps keep me from stupid things. She truly does. So, we're all very blessed in my family to have her in all seriousness. And she's a very brilliant mind. Anyone that would say that a woman isn't as smart as a man, has not met my wife. Um, I'm just trying to keep up, you know. She's really brilliant, and she's better looking too. That's the problem. If she could actually just do the talking part of this, I'd be totally obsolete. I mean, I try, guys. I really try to get her to talk, but she just wanted a guy that's shorter than her. Hey, now, Brent, I'm an inch taller than her at this point. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, burn. I know, right? Hey, when you're 5'6" and almost a half, you got to go for everything you can. But I'm not one of those guys that's going to put on cowboy boots just to make myself look a little bit taller. Anyways, so we'll take a couple more questions really quick, and we're going to close it up here at 10 o'clock. So let's get to a few more beekeeping questions if anyone's got them, and or not. I'm just going to ramble a little bit, which I totally can do. I've got a lot of great stories about Laurel, some that I'm not allowed to say. Oh man, so if both deep brood boxes are packed, should I put on a third? Wow, yeah. I mean, if both deep boxes are full of bees, throw that sucker on, because they might not be bringing in nectar now, and they might not for 2 weeks from now. But usually, that first big jump of spring nectar, especially if there's a lot of pollen coming in, if they don't have room to get that out of the queen's way, they can backfill within just a handful of days, and that swarm tendency just goes from 0 to DEFCON 10 or whatever it is. The difference between a prime swarm and a cast swarm, you know, uh, oh yeah, as a cast and like a virgin swarm, I'm not super familiar with the terms, but typically, I mean, your prime swarm is going to have your mated queen in it. That's the original one. They run her around. She loses like half of her body weight, and then she's going to be able to fly and go with it. And that's pretty much mostly what we have here. I did see one this year that had a secondary swarm, but as far as cast goes, I didn't have. I only had one hive that I know of that's in a second colony. Well, we really do appreciate you helping our channel grow. And I would hope that your rear end does make noises, because if not, that is rough, really rough. So C. Lee Shannon asked where I'm located. I'm in North Middle Tennessee, and that's where we're at. It's a beautiful place. Laura, are you okay over there? Losing the control just a little bit? Yeah, Walter's like, just stay with the saying, you are a stud of a man. Hey, Walter, I do. I sing it all day long. Now, if I could just get one person to agree with me, I would be the happiest man on earth. I really think that probably someone more educated than me, Ryan Nims, would be able to explain the prime swarm versus the cast swarm more. I really haven't done a ton of research in that, and I think I would probably say something wrong if I got into too many details. Let's see here. Sorry, I can't help more. Let's see. Will your nukes have marked queens? I'm planning on marking the queens, Dave. I think most people want it, unless someone specifically says, no, we don't want a marked queen. We're going to mark them. Hey, Sherry, Melina, thanks for coming on so much and being a part of our chat group. Hey, Patty Heintzelman, thanks so much for coming on and everything. Hope you guys are doing super well. Hope to see you sometime soon. Yeah. Yeah. So, just as far as, our information and everything like that, I've said this before and I'll say it again. We don't have all the information, and we can't. It's impossible. There's so many different um, elements to beekeeping. If you're in a cold region or a tropical region, you can take certain fundamentals like raising queens. You can making splits, single brood management. But as far as your seasons and stuff, you're going to have to learn some of that yourself. And there's several beekeepers to learn from as well. So we just want to be someone that can help you guys, even if it's not our information, pointing you in the right direction of like scientificbeekeeping.com, or pointing you in the good direction of other YouTube beekeepers, or just research articles. We just really want to be able to help people, ultimately. And even if it's not through us, if we can just point you in the right direction, that works really good. I had to add another 5-frame nuke to my main nuke box to slow the bees down today. I mean, you really have to. Once your bees start growing, especially if you get that natural pollen coming in, they grow at such an exponential rate. You've got to stay ahead of them. And once that nectar starts coming in, the swarm impulse, I think some people think that there are methods out there that you can just do, completely eliminate swarming no matter what. And that's not the case. Now, if you give the queen plenty of room to lay, they have plenty of room to store that nectar and everything and get it out of her way. You have pulled some brood from the colony to kind of help feel like they've alleviated all, that much mass of bees and everything. That can really help. But just to do one or two things, like just give them enough space and like, okay, this colony's not going to swarm. Swarming is a tendency that's never going to go away. It's a natural tendency. The bees are programmed to reproduce. That is one that, and I think it's healthy for the bees. Do I want them to swarm and go off yonder? No, I don't. But I think that's why making splits is very handy. And even if you only want 5 hives and you want to stay there, I still think it's healthy to go ahead and make yourself a couple spare nukes for insurance nukes. And if you have extras the coming year, sell them. They're so easy to sell, especially if you're producing a high quality 5-frame nuke. But I think it's as healthy and as natural as anything for the bees to want to reproduce. And I think we should, as beekeepers, accept that and be a part of that. It's just really not natural for a colony just to stay. This is my hive, and it's going to stay here, and it's going to stay here, and it's going to never leave, and it's never going to produce swarms or never going to do splits. It's just healthy bees need a split. Strong colonies are going to have to be split. Hey, Teresa, we are going to be giving you all a location. We'll be sending you all an email. I'm getting a yard prep for it. I really don't want everyone to come out to my house. It's not. It's going to be near Cookeville, Tennessee, and an easy access location. We'll give everyone the address, but I don't want 100 and something people showing up at my house and then knowing my address. And I just, the house is. I love talking bees. I think everyone understands that. And I do enjoy meeting people. I really love that too. But my house is one place that I hate. I don't even like my parents showing up without letting me know they're coming. Now, if it's an emergency or something like that, it's one thing. I like, my quiet time. I think most of us do. So, but I'll definitely be emailing you and letting you know where that's going to be, and we'll make that as easy for everyone as possible. And we've got so many people on here that have been subscribers of ours for a while, and some of them have their own YouTube channels, so I'm able to see some of the stuff they do, like Dan Ski and Backyard Bee, and Ryan Nims does a couple of videos, and some of the other ones. And these guys, they come on here, and it's almost become a community. And I really feel like I'm learning from these guys as well, and hopefully maybe I'm helping them out a little bit. And this is the community that I'm talking about. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter your size. We just all got to get to that healthy, sustainable beekeeping point where we're keeping our bees alive. We're not having to buy packages every year. It's hard to get to that point. It takes some time, it takes some experience. But when we're all adding stuff together, I just really think, we're going to be able to do a lot in the future. I really do. I'm pretty excited. Dan Skeets Bees, I'm a hermit. I'm not a hermit, kind of like, because I got family and whatnot. But it's funny because I like to talk, but I really need my quiet time too. I have to have my resting period. Let's see. So, anyways, got a couple more times. Yeah, Walter Heigl, seems like Ian Stepler has mostly eliminated swarming from his operation. I don't know if he's got that down to 100% eliminated or not. I do know that he loses some hives, and it's just part of the game. So he might lose some swarms sometimes as well. It's probably a very low percentage though, because he knows how to pull the bees down and pull brood from them. Not too much, Doesn't leave them too strong. Ian has a finely tuned operation going, and there's a lot you can learn from Ian Stepler. What wasn't? So yeah, I'll be in Maysville in 2 days. I should be there, Donner. Yeah. By the way, some of you guys I'm going to be seeing you here in Kentucky. Looking for that. Hey, by the way, this fall I'm going to be at the Tennessee Beekeeping Association conference. It's going to be in Cookeville. That's not too far from where I live, so I'm going to be actually speaking there. I'm going to be doing all kinds of stuff, and we're going to have a good time, and maybe even going out and eating and talking after it's all said and done too, and get to hang out a little bit. So that's going to be. It's usually in October. I'll be doing some more up-to-date stuff on that, and it's very reasonably priced. I forgot. Hey, P. Grace, if you're still on here, thanks so much for donating to our channel. We appreciate you so much. I saw it, and I meant to get back to it. I never did. Yeah, just thanks everybody so much. Yeah, Ian does really rock, and a lot of people disagree with him. Hey, good night, B Lord. Thanks so much for coming on, buddy. And Ian does rock, and even though some people don't agree with his methods, he's a hard worker. His bees are healthy. You cannot produce the quantity of honey and everything that he does by keeping unhealthy bees. So you don't have to do everything the way he does or that I do, but learn from these people who are successful. Don't learn from people who are just spouting off information based off of emotions, or you're going to lose bees. Let's see. Yeah, Yasmin, you're out there in the middle of the woods. It's that's the place to be. Good clean air. So, everybody, again, thanks so much for coming out. Whether it's liking our videos, whether it's just watching our videos, whatever, subscribing, all of that stuff, it really helps so much. And as our community grows, the more we're going to be able to offer. Right now, it's kind of slow season because we can't get into a lot of beehives, and we can, but we don't really need to. It's fixing to pick up. March really picks up here in Tennessee. So we should have some better videos, hopefully some stuff that's going to help you guys be able to be more efficient, more successful. And just thanks so much again, everybody. It means a lot to me and Laurel. And we will see you next time, or maybe even this weekend. So I'm going to sign out. It's 2 minutes till 10. And just thanks again, everybody. I've got to stop before I lose my voice. I got to have it for Saturday. All right. See you, everybody. Oh, yeah, that's how you do it. See you, everybody.